Welcome, boys and girls, to the much awaited, the much anticipated. People are waiting for Tenet to come into theaters while they're waiting for The Last of Us 2 review to come on the DweeBros channel.
They have to put this in theaters instead of Tenet.
Yes, possibly. Gather around, everybody. It doesn't matter how many people packed together within 6 feet for The Last of Us 2. Well, it's in, people, it's viral marketing for The Last of Us. We're spreading this disease. We're spreading this review knowledge to you. So welcome. I am Zach, aka DweeBro. I'm joined by Travis, Clicker, McCoy.
I like how you try to think of something in between.
And Jacob, Wolf. Werewolf.
Werewolf. That does fit.
Jacob, WLF, Werewolf.
Yeah.
WLF.
Why couldn't I be Travis Scar McCoy?
Yeah.
It's a lot cooler.
Oh yeah. we might be scarring it out, man. We don't know.
Might be. So let's start out. We did this with our last review. We like to, I think between three of us, where are we coming from? What biases may we be bringing into this review? Who is sponsoring us? Is Naughty Dog, they bought this shirt for me. Of course. Microsoft might be having their hand in this review. Let's see where we're coming from. So first off, I was a huge, ginormous fan of the first game. I think I gave it my third favorite game of the 2010s. So I'm a huge fan of the first one. Loved it. I love a lot of stuff that Naughty Dog's done since the beginning, since Crash Bandicoot. I've been playing since those days. That's where I'm coming from. Was very excited for Last of Us 2. Pre-ordered it. Got it day one. That's where I'm coming from. And we've all three beaten the game. And also, to preface, we're all going to spoil the whole game.
It's if you're watching this, you're hoping there's no spoilers. You need to get off this video.
This is your last warning. So yeah, we've all beaten it, and that is where I'm coming from. Travis?
Hey, I did not ever play this game, the first one, when it came out. I played it in 2017, I think. It was the year after I played 52 games in 1 year. I remember that. I played it after playing Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, and I hated those. I didn't hate them. I thought they were okay.
And the visuals suck.
They got better as they went, but they weren't for me. And then I played Last of Us, and that was the tipping point where I said, this is the first Naughty Dog game that's not like Crash that I genuinely really like, right? I felt okay about the Uncharted games, but to me, the gameplay of the first one was a slog, and the story had beats that I really liked, and I liked the ending a lot. And by the end, I really liked the characters, and I liked the ambiguity of it. But to me, the first game was, it was borderline. It was rad. I think it was good. I see the influence it had a good time with it, but it was a slug. It took me a while to get through it. And for the second one, I thought the visuals looked really cool. I thought it was interesting that they were pitching it as like a continuation, not as a sequel. That's what they were saying, is like, this is a continuation of that same story. And that was intriguing to me. But if you look back on the podcast as recently as like March, I think I was the one that was probably the least excited to play this game. I was like, I don't know, who wants to play a game about hate and pandemics with all this stuff going on?
Well, I think that was even for me being a big fan, because of the pandemic. This is when we're recording it. We're in the middle of this pandemic. I was like, I didn't really have a lot of big, strong pull to play it either. So
I was kind of, it's on the way, and I will play when it comes out because it's such a big game. So.
Yeah.
Played it when it first came out on the PS3. Loved it. I think it's an absolute masterclass of a game. It's absolutely a genre-defining, generation-defining, a perfect cherry on the top for the end of the PS3 era. That's why my opinion of the first game. Last of Us 2 got announced. I was really excited about it. And then I read the leaks.
Yeah, you were the only one that read the leaks. I think that's important to say.
I read the leaks, and I instantly canceled my pre-order. Through some wishful betting and other things, and an agreement that apparently you can't enjoy a game by watching it, I agreed to download the game and play it. I would not play the game until I beat the first one again, though. So I went back and played the first one, and then immediately started the second one right after that.
We like to start with categories. So we've got graphics, we've got music and sound, we've got gameplay, and then we've got story, and then our overall score is how we're going to structure this review. So let's get into it. The graphics. So Uh,
Graphics and visual design both.
Yes. This game, and I'd been saying it in our group chat as we're just trying to like figure out this game, our thoughts about it. Throughout I kept saying this is gorgeous. This game is absolutely gorgeous. And I saw something that cemented what I kept saying in the group chat, which is I've never seen something so one-to-one with with the art design. Meaning like with all these concepts art that comes out, here's what we hope for this game to look like. And just the other day, Naughty Dog had tweeted out a comparison shot of the ending, like that farmhouse, and what it ended up being in the game. And it was 1-to-1. Yeah. It was what they drew was visually on the screen.
That
1-to-1.
Never happens.
That very rarely, I can't think of another game right now that is so close to. Maybe Death Stranding is on that same level of concept, like matching. But oh my gosh, this game just has so many vistas, and you can look out and just see. And it's shared from the first game. For the first game, I loved that, hey, we got to head out to that gold dome over there. And visually, okay, this is how much farther I've got till I get to the big story moment or the big thing we're trying to get to. And this game still does that to a more impressive degree. Hey, there's the hospital. There's the building where we need to go to get such and such person. And you can see it for miles and miles, and it looks gorgeous. And it's like, oh, I know where I'm headed, and I visually know where I'm at in the game.
Yeah.
To get to my next goal. But what did you guys think of the graphics or anything that stood out, like visually to you? Or
I think I would say this game, they got, and I'm not going to get into the story side of this, but they got so much mileage out of Seattle.
Yeah.
And I know for some people, one of the things they loved about the first one was it was a true road trip. So you were in different settings, but the different settings were very one note. Like Pittsburgh had a look. Boston had a look.
Yeah.
This game was almost all in one place. And between the tunnels with the red lights and the haze and the dark hospital, and then the like Hillcrest, which is like a neighborhood that's kind of overgrown, to the apartment areas around there. Then you get into the jungle of the little island that just nature's fully taken over.
Yeah.
And you get the downtown where it's peaceful. And then you have another section of downtown where there's rushing water and it's literally rivers. It's like Venice taken over by a tsunami, and the aquarium. And I'm very impressed with, for me personally, how varied they made it feel for it being basically one place.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just something I was struck by. That feels to me like they had a vision for how they wanted to paint Seattle. I mean, there's obviously Jackson at the beginning, and there's Santa Barbara at the end. And those are also visually immaculate, the farmhouse, smaller pieces, but they had a vision of how many different locales could we imagine in this place.
Yeah.
And concepted it out. And to me, like, that's almost from an art design perspective. I mean, look, the game looks unbelievable. And I even went back and played, and Red Dead's open world, it's not fair, but immediately after I beat this, I went back into Red Dead 2, and I was like, I remember feeling like Red Dead. I still feel like that game's gorgeous, but it felt past gen.
Yeah.
This felt next gen. This felt genuinely like a PS5 game in my hands. So
yeah,
it was just unreal the way it looked.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, we can all agree that this game, the same way that The Last of Us on the PS3 was an absolute cherry on the top, this is a cherry on the top for the PS4. In the terms of graphics, I think it absolutely blew out the park. Zach, you hit it on the head when you talked about the farm. That right there was beautiful. Like, that was a beautiful representation. But I think the moment when I was truly like, I had to take it all in was when I first entered Seattle on horseback, and they opened it all up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh wow, this is something else. Because like, people don't recognize, but when I have the ability to look through the window of certain buildings that I can't really get into, but it's still fully rendered and it has detail on the inside of it. Yeah. That's a sense of realism that, like, most of the time, you know what directors would do? They just make that window very, very glossy and you couldn't see through it. You know, because they didn't want to, it's a lot of work. But no, the level of detail, the level of care that they had in this was, they knew that if you're going to spend this much time in Seattle, you're going to want to look at everything. They made it to where you can really look at everything. And that makes it like a level of like appreciation that you can only have in certain games. So I loved that. I loved the direction. I loved the art. I loved the representation of what the levels led to in terms of like, hey, this is the item we're going to. And it almost like it forces you to look at that. Because it says click L3 if you want to look at it. Yeah, you look at it and like you just stop. And that's the thing I think I appreciate with Naughty Dog is Naughty Dog attempts to make art in in the truest degree because they let you take time to just soak it in. There'll be times when you literally stop and there'll be no dialogue, and it just lets you sit there. And there'll be times I literally just sat there. I just sat there and I just looked out, and I was like, the same way with the giraffes in Last of Us 1, when you came across the giraffes and you were like, you just sat there with Joel and Joel and Ellie just sat there and you're like, man, like this is awesome. And it didn't stop. The giraffes kept moving. You know, you saw the leaves still moving. This was a full scene. This was art in the finest. And I think Naughty Dog does a great job when it comes to that. Even the character designs. When you look at the character designs and how you drew them up and how they because you know how it is. You know, you get an actor in and they come in and play that, but you know they have a sense of making things look real, and I think they kicked that up to another notch.
One thing
at the same time.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, this is what I was going to bring me to my one negative of the graphics was the facial design in the game. There were times when there's a sense of realism that you can try to push the boundary of, but sometimes it gets so bad that it gets like dorky looking kind of thing. I know we can't get to the point where like you can make facial expressions like I'm making right now, but when it gets to the point when and my prime example will be like you can look at Dina. There are times when you looked at Jesse and literally his mouth was like slanted to the side. Like it's like there was small little details that was like, oh, like it was so close. Like it was so close. But I think that's the thing, like we don't recognize how difficult it is to do this. But I don't know. I was curious what you guys thought.
I'll jump into right here because this was a huge debate in our group chat. It exploded as well. But I think what Jacob's talking about, you're talking about, we were sharing pictures of specifically the eyes of certain characters. I'm glad you brought this up. I knew we were going to talk about it eventually. But me, Kenny, and I think Jacob, you experienced it as well. There was parts when the eyes look like Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny, like just a black dot kind of going back and forth. And it didn't look natural to the point where I didn't know if stuff was glitching out. But Travis, you didn't experience this at all.
I didn't.
But, and I'll put some videos. I have video of it happening, some gameplay, and we definitely have some screenshots or whatever of it. But I don't know if that was a glitch. And I remember that definitely happening maybe in the open areas. And I don't know what was going on. But to jump on what you just said, Jacob, it does that stuff. As I give this game top tier with Death Stranding graphics wise. Mm-hmm. When stuff like that does happen with just the eyes and stuff, that would probably be forgiven in other games or even Red Dead or something else. But like when it's this top tier, you start to get a little picky. Yeah. And that stuff is much more noticeable when everything else is at top tier.
I'm glad
I don't know what happened.
It.
I don't know what happened with this.
Well, I'm glad you said it that way because while it's something I didn't experience, I think one of the reasons why I just couldn't because Kenny was, and we don't need to get into what he was saying. He was basically saying it looked like crap. And to me, I see the work that goes into this and it looks immaculate like 90% of the time, at least 100% of the time for me. It sounds like 90% of the time for you guys. And then I go back and I play Red Dead immediately after this and Evil Within 2 and all these other games. And I'm like, I'll forgive the eyes looking weird a couple times. Like to me, that's like, just, but that's
it didn't run
personally.
the experience, but it was weird. It was a weird, it was a weird spot in a game that reached new heights that I'd never seen in another game to see those eyes. I don't know what it was like.
Well, that's how I felt. Yeah. That's how I felt about Final Fantasy VII at times. It looked incredible. You have these giant vistas, and then the door did blow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the realm of any type of competition. Like if you go to a strongman competition and you can only lift between 400 and 500 pounds and you want to try to lift 600 pounds, you're being judged for lifting the 600 pounds.
Yeah.
Even though you can lift 500 pounds. I
see your point. Yeah.
And that's why I was like, I think
you can't get the glory if you're not willing to take the arrows over the I understand.
Yeah. And I don't think it's
a higher standard.
I think for me, it didn't ruin the game. It's just one of those things where you're like, it just makes you wonder what can they do with more and more time. Like, you know what I mean? Because if that was just a small error, and that might have been a small error, it just it might be the graphic and the technologies that we have right now. But the fact they're pumping out during the cutscenes, I didn't have a single issue during the cutscenes. I didn't have anything like that.
Oh yeah, not in the cutscenes.
Were beautiful. They were great. This was in-game graphics.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if that was a good point Travis was saying, like in Final Fantasy VII, the remake, there was a door in one of the towns in the
It looked like some
town.
NPCs.
There was a door and a couple
NPCs.
NPCs. A couple NPCs.
Yeah,
were,
but there was specifically like certain environments that wouldn't load. And Final Fantasy 15 had that same issue. And I don't know if it was a graphical issue. They couldn't figure out something to load. I think something maybe similar. This was their Final Fantasy 7 door. I don't know. With the eye is a certain thing. I don't know.
I mean, and you're right, Jacob. You're judged by your weight class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not fair to hold the people that make Evil Within 2 to the standard of Last of Us 2. I think anybody would look at the two games and say Last of Us 2 looks immensely better.
Yep.
But because it looks immensely better and because it's Naughty Dog and because they partner with 20 different studios to make this game, the expectation is perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And perfection's hard.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
The only other complaint I have is I hate, and I'm going to say this, I'll say this because I truly mean it, the little film grain filter that exists in this game. Like,
yeah,
it.
And that's definitely that's a preference thing because I love it.
Did you turn it off?
I couldn't find where you could turn it off.
You can turn anything off.
Oh,
yeah.
you can turn it off. Oh, okay.
I could not. I swear to you, I could not find it where you could turn it off.
I noticed it because I played on a monitor. I normally play my PS4 games on my TV, but I have a new monitor with HDR, and I just was feeling like this is one I want to sit close to the screen, put headphones on, and play it. I'm so glad I did it that way. I might not have enjoyed it as much sitting back on a couch. Like I don't know. But I noticed immediately when you're in the beginning as Joel riding around Jackson with the sunset, I was like, man, that's a lot of film grain. But as the game went on, I didn't notice it as much.
It was definitely really noticeable in lighter areas because when you're in the darker areas, you have the spores and stuff like that. That's fine. It's already kind of looking all muggy and whatnot.
Did the first game have some pretty significant film grain?
Yes, it did. That's my biggest complaint. Like, it's like
it's just a stylistic choice.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's because they're trying to be cinematic in a sense, but it's like I don't.
Oh, that's what it is.
I know, but it's like I want realism. I guess is what I'm looking for. And in that game, when you have that type of realism in terms of the graphics, why not match it with don't put a filter on things.
They're degrading the fidelity. That's been a big debate, even with digital cinematographers, where they'll make the whole movie digital and still put film grain in, and people are like, "Why? Why are you doing this?" And some people swear by it. I actually think Denis Villeneuve, I don't know if he shoots on film or not. Zach, there's an old documentary you and I watched together, or I think I told you about it. It was side by side, and they just argued about. I need to watch that again. But I was always a guy that liked film grain in movies, always wanted it, whether it was digital or not. But I've started to turn because I've seen really good digital cameras in the hands of really good filmmakers, and you find that you don't miss it, I feel like, depending on I think Denis Villeneuve, the guy that made Arrival, and he's making the new Dune movie. I think his.
It's funny because I've shifted more into a film snob.
Yeah, and I used to be more film, and you were all like, "It's easier, just use digital," and so.
Yeah, that's a whole other debate. But I can see that, and you can turn it off.
Isn't it weird that that's being argued about in a medium where you're not using a camera?
Yeah, no, that's
kind of the point. Is it's a preference thing.
Yeah,
it is.
One last thing about the graphics, there was this awesome that was a good point about saying hey, they drenched everything you can get out of Seattle. They got it out. Because you go to crazy different places. Mm-hmm. But I just loved at points, like Jacob said, I would stop. And this is why I did Uncharted 4, and I think it surpassed Uncharted 4 amazingly, of looking around, and I'd look up and see vegetation growing from the ceiling and a broken glass. Yeah. And it's so much hyper detail that you could miss that. And I looked at that and it's that is unbelievable. And that kind of stuff adds to, I always get sucked into video games and movies. If the environment, if you can very quickly get me into the world and world build, I'm in. So I'm sunken in. I'm scared. I'm scared of the clickers. I'm sneaking around. I'm lost in this video game, and I got lost in this. That's why it was kind of hard for me. We were talking about slogging through it because it was a very bleak game, and I would get sucked into this game emotionally and everything else. So that being said, the graphics blew me away. Sounds like it blew most of us away.
Yeah.
Can't wait to play it on PS5.
Yeah, they're gonna do the remastered version coming spring of 2021.
That's funny.
It's an official announcement. Music and sound design. So
can I jump off on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I have the official soundtrack on my Spotify.
Okay.
It's just there were lots of moments in this game and scenes where There's that specific like banjo kind of plucking song with the female singing that's at the dance scene, and they used it multiple times. I love that song. And then as going back through, they blended. They did two different things for the score. They brought back Gustavo, who did the first game. But then they also brought in this guy that did this really like almost kind of industrial, creepy, like more electronic tracks. And they used those in scenes like End of Day 2 for Ellie when she falls down in the hole and she's hitting the girl with the wrench, and really intense moments. And I felt like those intense music beats were not in the first game. I went back and listened. The first game had none of that stuff. And I felt like they married that industrial electronic style with the Gustavo. They had some callbacks to Last of Us 1 music, and then they brought in this other stuff. Then you get into like the licensed music with Future Days and the covers and Take On Me. And
yeah, that was cool. I loved that.
I thought the music to this game was exactly what it needed to be. Like, this isn't Star Wars. We're not going to have a theme for every character when they walk on the screen and it's bombastic. But I felt like it struck the perfect, it felt like a continuation of The Last of Us 1, but with more of the kind of gut-wrenching, disturbing techno stuff that was needed for the subject matter. So
yeah,
I thought the music was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. I also loved. I just remembered in the farmhouse area when Dina's like, "Hey, put on a record," and they play the banjo rendition of it's a church gospel. It's like church music. It's don't lay my body down, ain't no grave, and they start dancing to it and stuff. Those little cool things was a cool. I like that, and the Take On Me and all that stuff. But yeah, I loved having Gustavo back. I love that just all it is a simple guitar plucking, like kind of noises and stuff. But it's really, I don't know, it just fits that mood. It fits that mood, that bleakness, that unknown gold. World. Yeah.
And here's the fear of doing a continuation. If you strike gold in the first one, there's that debate of, well, do we not mess with the music? Do we just leave it the same? Do we have them write exactly new tracks just in that same style and hope they're as memorable? I felt like they did the perfect thing. They brought back a couple music cues. He wrote a few new ones, and then they injected some new style into it, and it felt like it fit this game. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they dodged a landmine there. I feel like with music, you can overthink it.
Yeah, because I didn't hear anybody complain, really, because you're bringing back the old, which worked, and let's sprinkle some new stuff in here.
I think in regard to this game, I think 15% of the story is built around music. And I say that in the sense of like, in the concept, because that is Joel and Ellie's bond right there.
Yeah,
they had their travels, they had other things, but Joel taking time. I think this is the real daughter moment, which Joel really felt like he had a daughter again. To teach Ellie guitar was that Joel leaving a piece of his legacy behind for Ellie to partake in, and you see that meant a lot to Ellie because Ellie was even making comments to the baby about, hey, that I'm going to teach you guitar one day, and it was all built on this concept of like, that's my legacy, that's what I have connected me to Joel, and this is what it's all built around. Now, when you talk about scorecard, when you talk about like the actual music in the game, it's one of the things where I would truly believe less is more. Like in the gameplay, you do not have intense like dun 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 dun. Like it's not going like it's nothing like that. No, what you hear is gunshots. What you hear is screaming. What you hear is the things that are happening around you. This is a real world where real things and real decisions are being made, and you feel that. And that right there is like way more impactful than me hearing like piano sliding across and stuff like that.
It's like pulsing. It's like a pulsing presence underneath all of that.
But for me, what's impactful is when the story does have moments of silence, they use almost a bluegrass type of feel of music, which in my opinion, that genre fits the world in which they're living in. The bayou, overgrown, it's nature taking over. It's that kind of feel, that kind of soul that takes over and really speaks volumes into the story in which we're experiencing in that world. I do love it. I love every minute of it. I don't think I have a single complaint about the music. I don't think it's too much. I think it's anything. It's a tone builder. It's a story, character developing moment. It's just like that typical less is more. Like, I guess that's just like the best way I can put it. Like, they don't have to put on this crazy soundtrack because, like, you could have soundtracks. I still listen to Super Mario Odyssey soundtrack. They can do stuff that's like really masterful pieces, or they can do very small, very contained, and very impactful pieces.
when you do stuff like that where you're not having a lot of music, I can compare this to like Half-Life and the show Breaking Bad. Both of those and this game all have the balls to say our the moments you're going to experience don't require the story.
Breaking Bad's a great comparison.
They allow you to just really the audience to seep into what's going on. You got to have the balls and you got to have some good content, or it will not work out, or it will just be like, okay.
But I also think like, and I don't know, Travis, you're a guitar player. Zach, I don't think you play guitar, but
I fiddle around.
You fiddle around, but I don't know if you guys have ever picked up an acoustic and you're just sitting by yourself and you just start plucking away. And it's in those moments. And I thought about this while I was playing the game. I was like, you really get to kind of think, because you're just kind of, you're providing something in the background while you think through something, and it's kind of mindless. But that mindless,
you're not thinking about playing. You're thinking of other things.
Exactly. And I think when I experienced that in the game was like, there was so much going on. And in that moment, Ellie still found time to sit down and take a guitar and play away on it. And there was everything going on around her, but this was like a focal point in which she brought it in. And I thought about that moment, was like, man, that's so relatable. Like when you hear the strings playing and like something's like transitioning like to night and day, it's kind of like, that's all it is. Like, guys, something else is going on. This is just kind of like, it's just happening, you know? And I was like, I really respect that. That's what I kind of got out of it. That was kind of impactful in that way.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right to bring up the guitar sections as it relates to music, because what I loved was they would let you kind of free play, and then they would kind of guide you to certain chords, and then that would guide you into a song. And that's what happens when you're really sitting, you're fiddling with guitar, you're not thinking, and then you play a chord, and then you remember a thing, and the next thing you know, you're playing a version of a thing and like I was just like blown away how audio design wise, musically, and gameplay wise, they made those moments happen with a game. I'm holding a controller, I'm not holding a guitar, and there's people playing this that have never played a guitar, and they literally 1-to-1 emulated that. And then you're doing it in her shoes, and then you're thinking about what she would be thinking about, and it's great.
It's crazy. It's absolutely like, it is a good tie to a character developing moment.
One other thing worth. Oh, sorry. Was it on sound?
I was jumping into sound design. So
I was going to say, let's not miss that, because that's
so. Travis, I think, makes sure every game we play. Hey, are you playing this with headphones? Are you playing this with headphones? Make sure you check it out. So I did play with headphones. For most of this game. The times I did not was the time the sound design was too good. It got too scary, and I said, headphones coming off, and I'm playing the speakers on my TV. I cannot take hearing little scratches behind me, and there was just times when things would be, the little, what were they called, the stalkers or whatever. They would be going across the wood floors and stuff, and I'm like, I can't do this. But just little touches of, I'll go back to that time when the vegetation stuff and whatever that might have been, even looking up there to begin with, is from the dripping of the rain, and like you could hear it drip on stuff, and you look around and you would just see these little water driplets, and just perfect. Like they knew like all these different spots to that really put you in the world. They
say with movies, and the same has to be true with games, you can have the best visuals in the world, but if your sound is not equally as good, it will feel cheap. And it's true. And the sound teams are like the most underappreciated people, because everything you're seeing has to have audio representation, and then those audio representations have to bounce off of each other the same way light does. And there's so many things they could miss or not do right that would be like, this game sucks, it feels hollow. That's what you would say. It doesn't feel real, or it doesn't feel right. And they just nail it, and they nailed it with this game. Like, you would walk into like rooms that were more hard walls, and you would hear a faint like echo of everything you're doing, but a muffled echo. And then you would, you would be walking, if you just pass through just a little bit of grass poking through, it would start to make the scratchy noises, and then more and more and more. And when you're balancing all those systems visually, and then you're also relating them to audio, like that is incredible. It's not like, hey, when he walks in the grass, make X noise. It's so dynamic, and they did unreal. I want to also point out that click when you're modding your guns, and you click on that little power strip, and then she clicks it off and she swipes it back. That just had the most satisfying upgrade. Like and then like this cleaning the gun and doing this, and the shotgun, like the guns sounded awesome. Like the bow and arrow had a really nice like whoop to it, and everything. The audio carries a lot of what you're experiencing and makes it so repeatable.
We didn't talk about this, but this kind of goes to graphics and sound. But when you would kill an enemy, I've never felt this way. And I think even in the first demo, they talked about how they wanted it to be, they wanted these enemies, and this goes into the empathy and the story stuff. We're about to get into this whole mess, but they talked about it from the first time they showed it. You could hear it when they were like, Peter, they killed Peter. And like, you know what I mean? And
it's devastating.
That was part of their little Lego blocks building this empathy kind of story they wanted to build. And between like that shotgun noise, boom, and I would just like somebody would come up close to me, I'd shoot them in the face with a shotgun, their face would disappear,
their whole face or their leg would blow off and they'd be on the ground scrabbling and crying and like
you actually run to kill them faster because you got that's what I found myself doing. I would shoot them, I'm like, dang it, and I'm like, they're screaming, like, I gotta kill them, so I just run to kill them faster. But it's like, did I just do something good or bad? Yeah. Like it's like I put them out of their misery quicker. But it's like,
when you got them like in a headlock and knifed them, to kill them or whatever, that, like the blood would squirt every which way, and that sound, like but you nailed it, but made me uncomfortable, dude.
Yeah.
Say about that. So I guess that's a good transition straight into gameplay.
Yeah.
So I think right off the bat, I'm going to jump straight into the deep end on this. This gameplay, and I think we all agree in the group chat, this gameplay destroys the first gameplay. Now, I still this doesn't diminish how much I love the first game, but absolutely they took those systems and said, hey, let's... One thing that did get annoying after a while in the first game was having to make a shank every 2 seconds. And this one is just, hey, just focus on sneaking up and getting that out of the way. Thank you. Like, we don't need to break a knife every freaking 5 seconds anymore. For the way that you're playing this game. So I think on every level, this game beats on the crafting. Oh, it's so much better. Whereas in the crafting in the first one, I felt like I could never get enough. And I really did explore every nook and cranny. I didn't feel like I had enough. On this one, it feels satisfying. You have the gun noises you just said. You have all that stuff. I felt like I was literally getting better at this game. And what strategy do you want to choose? You can't get them all. Like, maybe you could, but I don't know, like in a New Game Plus. But I was choosing, like, okay, I'm definitely going to use this. I'm always sneaking. I want to get more sneak stuff. Like, I want to be able to see enemies farther away with my, like, sensibility or whatever. So, this one was much more satisfying.
One of the things that was my big gripes that immediately had me feeling about the first game was one of the first times they introduce you to a clicker. You have one shiv and there's 3 of them, and there's no way to get past them without triggering their attention. Because you can't crawl, and you can't, and they're like one staring at a doorway you have to go through, and I know you can use bottles and stuff, but like they refined the stealth mechanics in this game perfectly. Like so good. Adding in the grass. I don't think the first game had grass, which isn't perfect, but adding in grass, adding an ability to go prone. I just feel like they added a couple more tools to your toolbox to really make it possible to sneak. And there's only one time I snuck through an entire enemy encounter, but when I did, I felt so good because I had to improvise and I had to do things where I was about to be seen. And that's where it's different. It's a different kind of stealth, where Metal Gear Solid 5, that game is designed with so many tools to where like it's perfect stealth action. Like you could get through things seamlessly and feel like an agent, like, and it feels amazing. This one feels almost, it's like just a nudge below, but it exceeds at different things because it's really not viable to make it all the way through an encounter perfect stealth, but that doesn't fit the themes of what this game's trying to do. So it's like you get caught and then you panic and then you shoot somebody and then you run over here and you bash them over the head with an axe and then you hide and then nobody else sees you, but then one person's kind of coming your way and you're like, I might need to get them, and then you preemptively kill them and then you're hiding again. It's like I don't know how to describe it. They blended hectic. I felt like a person that was infiltrating a zone I was not supposed to be in, and I could kind of hide and get away with things, but I kind of had to kill sometimes too. And
you know what?
Those things compete a lot of times, where a lot of times in stealth games, if you don't perfectly stealth it, you like restart, or you're like, I don't want to do this, I want to go back. in this game, it balanced the two in a satisfying way that I don't think
Yeah.
I've done many times in games.
Yeah, I stuck with the encounters. I know some people would probably reset to the last checkpoint stuff, but I was like, no,
that's where the fun was.
Yeah, I'm in it. This is how I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
But I liked the addition of when you got shot. I think it actually came later when I started noticing it for the first time, but you would get shot and Ellie would fall on her back.
Yep.
And it's like, and I'm like trying to like come at me, like I have to shoot before I can like pull this arrow out of me or something if they shoot you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that addition because it does lead to this kind of bleak into the world. Like everyone's on their own.
You feel surrounded. You feel like people are putting you on your back, and
you have
the AI was very intelligent. Also, they would flank me if I left myself open to it. Yeah,
you have to think on your feet, and you have to go to other places and whatever else. One thing, and I'm dying to put a clip on this in, but I did have some points where you're talking about the AI that it does work brilliantly sometimes, and sometimes, I mean, how else could they have done it too? But I got to an area, I was like, I'm just going to try to rush this area. And I rushed it, and somebody like, what was that? And I went up the stairs, and up the stairs is just like a hallway and a door, like to get to this main, like second floor. So they kept coming up the stairs. I heard something, and they would come through, and I would grab them, kill them. Where's John at? And I'd hear up the stairs, and I would get back in my spot.
Yep.
Kill him. I haven't heard from Chad in a while. And every time they come up the stairs, they had to see the pile of 15. I seriously killed all 15 like enemies in that area. They were stacked. There's Chad, we got a problem. Like, yeah, there's 15 people in the same spot. Looney Tunes, Wile E. Coyote style. What's going to happen here? You know?
Yeah.
But that was just it added to it. It made me laugh.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's how I cleared out the whole area. But certain moments like that were special, and everybody, not to the same degree as Metal Gear Solid 5. We love comparing, sneak stuff to that. But there was points where like maybe Jacob flew through this area and didn't have a problem with it, whereas I had to think on my feet and run over here and shotgun this, and I found some ammo really quick, and they got shot in the leg, and I laid back and barely made it through.
Yeah, it
did add to it better. And I will say that this game, as much as I did have issues with the sneaking, because I again compare everything to Metal Gear Solid 5 because they perfected it, but I still did have issues. I still don't think they have figured that out quite yet. I had weird issues where they would see me, and I'm concealed. I'm staying still. Why is this not working out? But I do think it's an improvement. It's a step above. So
it was a lot better than Uncharted 4.
Yeah, Uncharted 4 was so obnoxious. They would find you. All the AI they know exactly where you're at all times. This, you could get out of it. You could hide, and people would kind of get bored and kind of go away and try to find you in a different place. I think it was improved on Uncharted 4. So
So as far as it goes with gameplay, I came right off of Last of Us 1 right into Last of Us 2. So in my opinion, I'm the perfect one to talk about this because I have freshly experienced everything.
Yeah.
Last of Us 1 had one major flaw, and it was the way they did platforming and stuff like that, and the way you traverse the world.
You grab a ladder.
Ladders, planks, and pallets. That's how you lived. In this game, they were like, wow, that was really stupid. Let's not do that ever again. So they didn't do that. Actually, I think they did it as a joke, and they put a ladder in one part of the game.
I have a statement on that, so I'll share why I think they did that.
I think they did that as a joke because they were like, everyone knew how much they hated it. Like, let's put a ladder and make them have to climb it. That'd be fun.
I have a theory, but go ahead.
They replaced it with different mechanics in the sense of like breaking out windows to get into buildings. That right there is like
the breaking windows thing was so satisfying.
It was so simple though. It's like you're in a post-apocalyptic world. Who's gonna try to open? Hey, door's locked, boss.
Where's the ladder?
Get in.
Where's the ladder at?
Where's the ladder? No, break a window, dude. Like, come on. Like,
I like the ropes. The ropes were awesome. Really fun.
Yeah, the
cool,
ropes were good.
And they had fun physics. I liked an extension of the ropes was the extension cords. You had to find a way. It felt like trying to plug in a cord.
I did have some wonky stuff happen with the extension cords because like I would walk around and walk through things with them. But that was just
they don't want you to get caught.
The extension cords were that element of this game, and the open world Seattle were both borrowed from Uncharted. I think Naughty Dog's great at taking what did we do before and let's just copy paste it and make it a little bit better or try to figure it out. So that's from Uncharted 4 when you had to like will up the Jeep and stuff with that. And they had that crazy cord with the physics or whatever. And then you also got the Uncharted Lost Legacy. You had an open world kind of like two people trying to explore this and they're telling stories while they're on horseback.
But much better solutions than what they were doing in Last of Us 1.
I'll keep progressing as
far as I know what you're saying. They're bringing it from those things.
The combat was absolutely phenomenal. I feel like the gunfights were good. The stealth mechanics. When you got a hold of a crossbow, I think that was my this game is peaking for me in gameplay because like the crossbow to me was the most satisfying weapon to use.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I would blow through like silencers on pistols trying to get headshots, but the crossbow was like, yes, finally, like a crossbow.
I like finding in the environment the safes. And then environment,
I did those.
Trying to figure out how to track the safe.
I have a comment on that. So I'm a little spoiler boy, whatever you want to call it, and I could not find one of these safe combinations anywhere.
There was one I couldn't find either.
So I was like, frick it! I pulled it up and I put it in. She's like, wow, how'd you know that? Lucky guess. And I'm like, they suck. Like they know.
You weren't to where you would have found it yet. That's funny. That's almost Kojima-esque. Like,
hey, I laughed at that. I was like, you know what, you sly dog, you're not gonna stop me, but that's funny.
There was one I could not figure out at all. Like I just could not figure it out. So I did look it up because I looked everywhere in the area, and I felt like if I go down there, I'm not gonna be able to come back. And then it was on a poster somewhere. I don't know how I was missing it, but I like that, like looking around the environment, trying to figure out where they are, how to figure it out. There was only one.
The goal of this game was where the first one was a very linear. Sometimes like you have two paths to go. This game was like, let's kind of take a linear approach, but open it up 5 different ways.
Wide linear.
You know, and that's why I was like, I can appreciate that because it gave me a sense of like exploration where like, am I missing something? And then I think my biggest complaint with that was like if I did miss something, sometimes if it was upper or lower level, you had a hard time getting back to it. Mm-hmm. To where like if you're like
they would cut you off.
It's like, should I go downstairs? Is that going to progress the story?
Yeah. I was with you, Jacob. When you look down, I was like, I haven't got that safe combo. I need to, I don't know, go back and try to figure that. I thought I'd have an answer by now. Or something.
And it's just like, dang it, I can't go back and do that. So that kind of sucked. But I understand like you're traversing through broken down buildings. Sometimes when you go down a certain path, you can't go back that same path. You know, I can understand and respect that. First things first, let's talk about the open world on day one. I think that part of the gameplay is a huge like part.
Yeah.
Like freaking yes, like because it was so awesome. Because like you were coming into Last of Us expecting what you played in Last of Us 1. That's what I was expecting, which Last of Us 1 was good. Was it great? No. Like when it comes to like the actual like combat and stuff like that, there was times when it was really clunky. You feel like your character didn't really move the way they should. And this game, it was like, I'm sliding over barrels, pop, slide over another barrel, prone, crawl. It's like I had full control of everything that I wanted to do, and it felt slick. It felt smooth. It felt natural. And then I'm expecting that, and then I go into the open world, and it's like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? And then Ellie's marking stuff on the map, and I'm like, I need to go to every little thing. I need to go do every little piece.
This game won me over, and I knew it was going to be worth exploring every spot because, and I don't know what order you guys did things in, but I always like to go left to right on a map. So I went left, and then I found the bank, and I went down into the bank, and you're killing some clickers, and then you get a little bit of a story, which I thought that the storytelling of the notes and stuff in this game was awesome. And I think it was there in the first one. It didn't feel to me.
It was. I actually have one written down that I really liked.
I felt like they improved. I don't know, for me at least. I was more engaged with these. But I liked you stumbled on somebody who tried robbing a bank after the outbreak, and I found a shotgun. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, so I got to explore something. I got a little side story. Yep. I got to kill some clickers, and I got a shotgun that I can now use. And I'm sure you get one later if you miss that. But like that's gameplay reward. Like it's not like a trinket or like a collectible, which this game has that. But like other games, you would go down in that whole bank and you'd get a card. You know what I mean? Like I got a freaking shotgun for going down there. And another one, I got a cutscene. And then another one, I got another item. And they put meaningful things.
And you could have missed all that.
Missables. I could have missed all of that.
You could. Yeah. That's the crazy part about. But that's where you're like, when you create an open world thing, it's completely up to the player's choice. Do you care about this? No. All right, go do what you need to do.
Yeah. You'll get the shotgun on day 2.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
like I think for me, it was really honestly a fresh of breath air. It was like I am now really into this. Like you have really got me invested. The part that I have to absolutely ram like away, like I wish I never put in it, was the boat. I swear to you, that boat in the freaking game was the stupid. It was just as stupid as the pallets with Ellie in Last of Us One.
I guess I must be odd man out on this. I thought that was awesome. It controlled great and it was fun, and
I
I
didn't
got
have
to
I didn't have a
explore the
problem with the
city.
boat.
You and
Yeah.
Kenny both hated it.
I
Was
was
it the
okay with the boat.
controls? I thought it was cool. It was
it
a
was-
nice change of pace. You felt very alone. The wind is ravaging. You stumble on a little. I don't know if you guys stumbled on the little shop where you have a boss fight. Did you guys have that?
Yes,
That's the
yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah, it was really creepy in the arcade, and you fight that monster, and
Yeah.
I remember that. I think my issue is like one was the controls. I thought now don't get me wrong, you're in the middle of a bunch of ravishing like winds. It's gonna be really hard to control. But I really felt like I was on ice. Like that's my approach. I was like, this really slides with the smallest of little touch. And I'm like, zero control in that sense. And then when you talk about like getting, I don't know if you guys got your boat jammed in certain parts. I would get my boat like jammed sideways in certain parts because like there was one building that had 3 layers of scars that you needed to clear out, and there was 3 ways you can go. You can go right, left, or through the middle. And I was trying to go left, but my boat was still carrying to the middle, and they got stuck between a literal like.
Oh yeah,
staircase.
I did have to get stuck to one like
And
around
I
that
was
area.
like, and I'm saying like, oh my gosh, I'm like trying to wiggle it left and right. I'm trying to like just get it out because at this point I can't do the game without the boat. Like, that to me was just like, okay, like
It sucks.
I have to do it. Like, there's just nothing I can do about it. Was it a sense of exploration with the boat? Yeah, sure. You can explore that building. You can explore that building. You could do that. But I didn't feel the way I did on horseback with, Dina. On this one, it was more or less like, I just need to get through this. I don't even want to stop. I don't even care. Like, just get me off this stupid thing.
I want to elaborate on what you were saying about like the letters or stumbling upon things and stuff. That was to me one of my favorite parts of Last of Us 1 was what happened here, like what happened to the family. And I think they built upon that even more. I think there was even more moments like that in this game.
Every area seemed to have a little mini story that they made all the letters tied to.
Yeah, and you had to connect them like, this is what was going on here. And like some heartbreaking ones of like, what happened to this family or these kids had to fend for themselves. I wonder if the mom came back. We don't know.
Yep.
And it leaves it off like you don't know what happened.
Yep.
You really don't. And then there's other parts where one of the safes, there's a note that says like, hey, I drugged all these people. I think you drugged them or something, and then threw them into the auto body shop.
And you open that door
and threw a clicker in there with them, and they got bit. And they open up, and you see the 3 guys from that letter and stuff. They're all changed, their clickers or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was stuff like that where it's like you get to interact, like, oh, this is what happened. You get the backstory of these little areas. But I love that first one. Love that about this one.
Yeah, I thought I do agree with you on that. I think that was absolutely like great. I even remember Boris. I don't know if you guys remember Boris, the world's greatest bow hunter.
I found his house. I thought I was going to get a bow, but I didn't get one. Maybe I didn't find it.
Well, that's where you got the. I thought later on. No, you got the crossbow on the boat.
I got a crossbow on the boat, but they were hinting like he was this big bow hunter.
You got the bow. That's how you got the bow from Ellie. It was stuck in his back.
I didn't find it. I just found his basement with all his stuff.
Oh, so I fought him. He became a stalker.
Oh really?
And I had to do a fist fight with him.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I got the bow. So what happened was I was reading all these letters about how great he was and how great he was and how they built up this community, and then they had dissension, and then they broke apart, and Boris and his family was running away, and then they got separated, and then Boris got trapped and got bit by a clicker, and then he became a stalker, and I had to fist fight him in the basement, and when I beat him, he had his bow attached to his back, and I pulled it
Oh,
out
I
of
did
bonus.
do that. I did do that. Yeah, because he's like, you don't need this anymore.
Yep.
And like pulls it off his back. Yeah.
Best environment story to me was when you go in that apartment and you open the door and some bottles shake.
I was on edge.
What's going on here? And you're going through an apartment and it looks abandoned, and then there's a bench and you go to click and you go to start working. Oh, you motherfucker! And like
The game
you get jumped by
trolls you.
3 people in the middle of upgrading. Your
That
stuff.
was a standout moment in the game. Yeah, because
oh my god,
what a funny choice. Because there are certain things where you get into a game mindset and you're like, oh, this can't happen because A, B, and C. They can't attack me. I'm safe actually in this area because I'm at the bench. But then you hear and running, and you're like, oh my gosh, did you get pulled out and a cutscene type thing happens like for a second? Perfect troll. Like,
Yeah. I think the gameplay on this one was I know I made a joke about like it looked like it was little band-aids in the sense. I don't think that was fair.
I don't think
willing to
visually
admit
you
that.
can tell from how it feels.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks different. It looks a little
Yeah.
newer, but I thought watching E3 stuff, I was like, looks like more of the same. And now it's one of my favorite games.
Yeah,
So,
it was. I think if anything, they did a better job in the sense of providing you more tools to approach each encounter differently, which is all you can really ask for. You know.
Yeah, the first one I felt like I used my pistol and my shotgun. I didn't use Molotovs. I didn't use stuff. In this game, I was trying to use everything because they set. I think this is something we haven't talked about. Is every encounter zone to me felt curated, like it was going to really feature a different tool, right? So I felt like some areas it was better to use a silenced pistol. Other areas it was better to try to get all these guys in one area and throw a Molotov, or place a bomb in the doorway. It'll blow up. It'll pull all the stalkers, and then I can run through the left side. And so, like, I think about Jacob. You taught me to think this way with multiplayer games, which is some maps and games are just always a 3-lane design.
Yeah.
And with this game, I felt like they mixed up. It wasn't always just the same type of zone, right? In Gears of War, you drop in a big box and there's going to be a bunch of cover. This game, I felt like sometimes there'd be a long patch of grass that went down the middle with snipers on both sides, able to see. Sometimes it was a big apartment building and you could go inside or you could go outside through the trees. I just felt like they mixed up the scenarios. No two combat sandboxes felt identical.
Yep.
And so every time it felt like a fresh puzzle. How am I going to get through here with what I have right now? So it kept it really fresh. I do think it's worth saying, because I think this is related to gameplay. I think day 2 is a lot better than day 1. And I thought day 1 was really good, but day 2 combat encounter wise, especially day 2, or not day 2, second half of the game is what I was trying to say. Second half of the game, especially from the end of day 1 with Abby through 2 through 3.
We can almost bleed into story here with the gameplay, because I think some of this stuff is what you're doing, like what you're actively doing with the gameplay as well. I think we can just go straight into story stuff here.
I think it's worth it, yeah.
Story with this game is where, I mean, straight from the leaks, people, were divided. I think this game is extremely divisive in the story choices that it took. I can only compare it to movies like Prometheus, or choices made in Metal Gear Solid 5 that,
I think Metal Gear Solid 2 is a better
Metal Gear Solid 2, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2.
Or like Last Jedi, where
and
you go in wanting Luke to be the hero, and
I also want to say this, and I had this thought when I was thinking about this, because we were like, Metal Gear Solid 2 did this when we were, just beating the game, we were talking about it, but I wondered about this. Majora's Mask, Metal Gear Solid 2, Kingdom Hearts 2, for some reason, Halo 2, now that we're playing Halo 2, Travis.
Halo 2 does the same thing.
They get this crown of like, you have made a lasting achievement game, and I respect that they do this. It takes balls to do this, to say, we have this winning formula, do we copy paste it? Or do we try something new? But man, all of them say, you loved this character, you're not going to play as. Like, all of them make the same choice. In Halo, you're playing the Covenant.
Can I make a
Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 2, you play as Roxas. In this game, you're going to play as Abby for a lot of the game. And they do this like kind of bait and switch kind of pull. So
can I say why? And I can't speak to the bait and switch thing, but here I agree. So there's one fundamental thing, and I think this game is a great example, and it shows what people value because it is subjective. Story does not exist to serve characters. Characters exist to serve story.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a really successful game, people fall in love with that story, and they want to hold those characters to the prisoner of that story, and they can only emulate that story again.
Yeah.
And really good storytellers realize that is stupid. That literally, don't make a sequel. If you're going to just put the same characters through the same scenario or a similar scenario over and over again, you get Final Destination. I know you get Saul. Like, you get copy paste.
Yeah.
Characters exist to serve story.
Mhm.
And that is why I think is because what do you do at the end of Halo? You just have Master Chief go blow up another Halo? Well,
Yeah.
maybe be more interesting to have him have to think about what is Covenant and have the Covenant think, what are the
Yeah.
humans? What are our tribe, right? Metal Gear Solid. Do we just have us do another Solid Snake? Kojima's Galaxy brand, I won't even try to explain maybe what he was trying to do. He was trying to do a whole
He was
narrative
the first
on
one that said, "This may be a troll. We will do."
yeah, he was trying to do a whole thing on hero worship. And,
Yeah.
you know, you are Solid Snake. He was trying to tell us that then. He's trying to tell us that Metal Gear Solid 5 is you don't need to play a Solid Snake to be Solid Snake. You were Solid Snake. You took him through that journey. Last Jedi, it's not Luke Skywalker's story anymore. He exists as a character to serve the larger story, which is Rey's story and the overall where that world is going. Sorry, he doesn't get to run around with the green lightsaber and be a hero the whole movie. And this game takes that less beaten path, you know, like,
and I think,
and I won't say it's perfect,
and
but
I won't even say that they can't do that. I won't even say that Halo 2 can't do this, and Majora's Mask can't be wildly different from Ocarina, and this game can't let you play as Abby. But what it does allow for the fan base, and it's visible online, is to make a choice. Do I like this or do I not like this choice?
You're inviting you're inviting the arrows.
And I respect the balls of Naughty Dog or of Disney, of whoever is making these choices to do these controversial things, because I'd rather have Death Strandings and Last of Us 2s in the world instead of and sorry to crap on our brothers over at Microsoft. I know they paid and sponsored us today, but Halo Infinite, which is another copy paste of something I've seen a lot. I've seen this gameplay 3,000 billion times. And, you know, I respect when stuff does try to do that. Now, I do have feelings about this game that way more towards the negative. That was how I ended up and where I landed on this game for the choices that they made. I respect the choices, as I did Last Jedi and all these other ones. Let's get crazy, but it's going to split. You're going to split the fan base into two places.
Yeah, if you can't do something interesting, authored, true characters, and also have universal acclaim.
Yes, and I think
I don't think you can. I really don't. It just doesn't work out.
I think from here on out, we're going to go into like 50 different mini discussions, and that's okay. They might bleed into different ones.
Can I try to set the table with one starting point? Because if we're going to start talking about Last of Us 2, I think we have to start with the end of Last of Us 1.
Yes.
Because to me, this game it's really not a sequel. It's just a continuation. And what I mean by that is this. Last of Us 1, obviously Joel's the main character. And then you have this kind of also side I won't say side, but emerging protagonist with Ellie, right? So and that story is about Joel forgiving himself and the world and all of what's happened for what occurred to his daughter.
Yeah.
And embracing Ellie as a daughter. And his journey to do that, and he has to do some pretty freaking despicable things. He has to do some really awful things, both at a micro level in terms of killing people and at a macro level of cutting off any possibility of this thing ever turning around, right? And then for Ellie, and especially when we get in the Left Behind, she is a person who does not know her place in this world, but she has hope that somehow it seems like she might be able to help, right? And so that game is building their relationship. They're growing, they're bonding. He's saving her. She's saving him. She's learning to be a kid in this madness. He's learning to be a human adult again and have a heart and not be cold. And it all is building, and it's so positive, even in spite of all the darkness, that the twist of fate that happens at the end of that game is a betrayal of their relationship. He lies to her. He lies to her, and she kind of knows he's lying.
Yeah.
In this game, what I love about Last of Us 2 is if you take a 12 or 13-year-old girl and you lie to her about something that massive, it will plant seeds of mistrust, and it will lead to probably you guys don't talk for 4 or 5 years. And this game stares that down the barrel and says, that's what happened. What you would assume would happen at the end of Last of Us 1 is they would kind of grow apart and they'd live in the same town, but they'd be kind of estranged. They wouldn't be on the same page. She's going to find out because that's how these things happen. And he's going to live not with regret of what he did, but with regret of how broken it is that he now loves her as a daughter and he can't have her as a daughter because to get her as a daughter and keep her, he had to do awful stuff. To me, that is fascinating. That is great character work. And one of my biggest fears with this game is that either she was just going to be oblivious of what happened with the Fireflies, and it would be some big reveal in the second act of, oh my God, Joel, we're here getting revenge on these people for killing Dina, and you killed the Fireflies, like something melodramatic. I love that this game decided she's going to find out before this game even happens. I love that they decided, and she's not going to be cool with it because she wouldn't be. She is not that kind of person that would be all right with that. This game owns the fact that Joel, while saving her life, estranged her as a daughter. And we can get into the structure of how they roll that out, because I do think it gets exhausting for some people and the way that they did it. But to me, characters exist to serve story. And Joel's story, for all intents and purposes, when this game starts, is over. Mm-hmm. The only thing he can do is be a spark for Ellie to grow.
Yeah. So
because he painted himself into that corner with the way the first game ended.
Let me jump in on when this first got announced. I was like, because you felt similarly that ending was one of my favorite game endings of all time, and
it still is.
Yeah, in which I love when a director or a game director or whatever leaves it up to interpretation of things. And how do you feel about this, or what do you think happened, or does Ellie really truly believe Joel at the end of Last of Us 1, or does she not know? You don't know, or is she naive, or whatever else? You don't really know, and they leave that up to whatever. And when they announced the second game, I said, that was the biggest question going into this game was, do we need this game? And that was what I was trying to answer this whole time I'm trying to play Last of Us 2. And they did a great thing at E3 where they said, hey, this game, we try to do it without Joel and Ellie. We tried to do whatever. We're going to have them in there. We're going to do this. And we figured it out. We figured out how to do a sequel and make it meaningful, and it's going to be worth it. So we come into this game and they kill Joel at the beginning. And I think that within the leaks, that is what pissed people off. That personally didn't affect me, with a caveat. Kill Joel. And it seemed already Ellie was the main person. I'm good, whatever. Let's do that. That's okay with me. But you have to earn it. Can you earn killing Joel and giving me something better or equal to the experience that I had with the first game? That answer, spoiler alert for me, was it did not. It did not reach the level of Last of Us 1. Last of Us 1 from beginning to end was this tight-knit, and you said it, Travis, of like this with Joel and Ellie and this kind of father-daughter relationship, and he lost his daughter and Ellie, and they're trying to like grow, and they grow together, and they go through these hard, trying, violent times together. And it is so tight-knit, each area you go to, and by the end, it is like a bow. At the end, you have experienced this beginning to end relationship, boom. And then this ambiguous ending. That is, to me, I love that type of storytelling, all that stuff. Just set it off for me, the stuff that I enjoy. With this, they go into a different structure. So we have Ellie at the beginning, and then boom, it cuts. Abby's right there about to shoot Tommy. All this is about to happen. And then the second half of the game happens, and that's the twist. You're playing as Abby for the 3 days, and you get to see from her perspective. I don't think the game, and we're about to go into tons of little sub-discussions, like I said, but the game never hit for me to that same degree that the first game did. It never got this bow on top. It had the balls to try something different, but nothing ever reached in any of these characters that they introduced. Nothing got anywhere close to the relationship that Joel and Ellie had in that first game.
Can I make a statement? Because I respect that. That's helpful to know where you're coming from. To me, nothing came close because the game was still about Joel and Ellie. And maybe that's not represented in the moment-to-moment scenario, but to me, they weren't trying to make Dina and Ellie the new Joel and Ellie. And the ending of this game was the bow on top for me, because she finally realized that she wasn't killing because she's mad somebody killed Joel. She's killing because she never forgave him, and she fucking knows it. Mm-hmm. And he died knowing she didn't forgive him, and that killed her. And she finally forgave. To me, like, it's the ending. It's the answer to what happened at the end of the first one. And it cost her a lot. And she lost a lot. So to me, and I respect it didn't work for you in terms of the adventure, but to me, it got the bow on top moment with that final cutscene of them and the flashback sitting on the porch talking, and they're just like the first stone is falling and the next day he dies. You know what I mean? And she doesn't get to watch that movie with him. They don't get to unpack all those feelings.
I will say too that the Joel and Ellie moments in this game were my favorite maybe story moments of the entire
maybe
game.
They were too few and far between for you. You wanted more of them, or
I don't even think that necessarily, but there was, and I think the reason being, let's look back at Metal Gear Solid 2 with Raiden. That was a controversial decision at the time, but I still ended up liking Raiden, even though people called him a wimp or all this other stuff. He had a cool little thing go on in Metal Gear Solid 2, and if you return to it, there is some cool stuff with Raiden. You know, with that, you don't have to have Solid Snake, but Dina and Abby and whatever else, and Owen Wilson or whatever his name is.
Maybe we should talk about the other characters. I loved Abby, so nothing ever
another
split.
Okay, I was waiting because I wanted you guys to talk it out, and then I could talk, but that wasn't going to happen. I don't want to move on yet. When you talk about the story of Last of Us 1 versus Last of Us 2 and the continuation concept of that, what makes Last of Us 1 so much easier to say it's greater in sense of a storytelling standpoint is the relatability I think you have with Joel and Ellie, in the sense of, like, I think everyone wants a good, relationship with their daughter, and Joel got robbed of that. Joel lost that, and then Joel now found a chance, and then it started like building upon it, and you saw a relationship blossom, and it like, in the end, honestly, if you think about it, Joel said a really powerful statement in Last of Us 2, when he said if he could go back and do it all over again, he'd do the same stinking thing. Yeah. And you think about that, and if I was a dad and they took my daughter to save the whole society, it'd still be a hard decision.
Yeah,
I
love that. I love that he dug his heels on that. Like, because their relationship was on the rocks then. I love that much to him.
It meant that much to him to make that decision.
That's good.
If I look back on myself and I'm like, my daughter's going to mean I have to save the whole world, I'm going to sit there and be like,
yeah, you're going to think.
It might not be worth it. It might not be worth it. And that's what makes that so powerful. So then the decision to kill Joel in Last of Us 2 is a very controversial one. Is it one that should cause people to flip out the way they did? No. I do think that in this world of Last of Us, cruel and terrible things happen to people who do cruel and terrible things. Or things just happen to people that you just don't see coming because this world's chaotic and a mess.
Hey, man, like the kid in Last of Us 1, cruel things happen to good people.
Yeah.
In that world.
So for Joel, it was coming. Well, if it wasn't them, it was going to be someone else. Mm-hmm. Joel was going to die. And people have to understand that. People die. The things that happened because Joel died with Ellie is what makes this game beautiful. Because I'll tell you right now, all the flashbacks, all the stuff that happened between Joel and Ellie are what makes this game great. I think the story in itself with Abby and Ellie is good. I do not think it's at equal level with Joel and Ellie's forgiveness trail of a story.
I think Jacob, I'll jump on that and say, I think that's what I want to express is nothing reaches the level of Joel and Ellie's relationship that I had in the first one. Nothing ever touched to that similar level. And I was longing for that the entire game, for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you guys said it really well. That makes I really do understand, and I agree, right? So the sections with Ellie on the revenge trail, and then Abby, ironically, doesn't even know Ellie's in town. Like, that's one of the things I love about this game is when you're playing Ellie's 3 days, I think really probably the disconnect here is I really, really liked the first Last of Us, but you guys loved it. And to me, the Abby Ellie stuff in this game, I think it achieves different things than the Joel and Ellie stuff. But to me, it's the same quality of storytelling because I didn't quite have that level of emotional, personal connection to the first one. To me, it's like it's a different story with different themes, but it's same quality. I have a couple caveats. I don't think the side characters on Ellie's side of it, I don't know, Jesse in particular.
Their butt.
We'll talk about that later. I think he did not even belong in this game. Like I don't even. Jesse to me was truly a weak
He was a
point.
baby
Like,
daddy. That's all he was.
He didn't need to be in the game at all. I think you could have rebuilt some of the dynamic with Ellie and Dina and invest more time into that, and it could have been a little bit better. But I'm a little off track. What I'm trying to say is I love the way that you get the game is about empathy and it's about revenge, right? And then so there's that overarching thing that relates to the first one that is Joel and Ellie, but then there's this mini arc, which is the actual story of this game, which involves Ellie and Abby. So it sounds like you guys are cool with the overarching arc. You still like the self-contained of Last of Us 1 better, but you were satisfied, at least character-wise, with the decisions made between Joel and Ellie. But the mini arc of the literal story of this game didn't hold up to the mini arc of the first game. So that's where the tension is.
I don't think.
Yes, among other things, yeah.
Like if both of them together are one big arc.
I think your statement is an accurate one, but in a general sense. Am I just as interested in Abby than I am in Ellie now? Yes. I would say I put Abby and Ellie on the same field.
To me, they're equal. I love them both equally.
Because now
I actually like Abby so much. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, we want to talk about Abby now in the sense. Abby is now Joel.
Yeah.
Abby. If you want to talk about it in that sense, Abby has Lev, and Abby that's all she's realized that she drove all of her friends to go do things for her own selfish ambition of revenge, and then she had regret of it because they saw dissension, and then she saw them all die. And now she has Lev, and she's like, that's mine. Like
Naughty Dog did Galaxy Brain level stuff with Abby of how do you have someone kill the main character from your first game, reveal halfway through the game you're going to play as them, how do you build empathy through gameplay mechanics? And you know what they did? They made her strong like Joel. Mm-hmm. Her melee animations match Joel's from the first game. She crafts shivs like Joel did. She has to grab ladders to help people move across things like Joel did. They do like 6 different things in the first 20 minutes of playing as Abby to make you feel like, even though you don't know her and you do not like her, they're trying to show you that through other things echoing back to the first game, this person maybe isn't who you think they are. Yeah. And I think that they like that stuff. I'm a huge fan of when you take gameplay things and in a meta way tell story through it. They did like 6 different things with Abby that did that. And part of it is also Lev. Lev is a parallel to Ellie in the first game. To me, like I resonated with what you said where they were making her, I think they made her like Joel to try to communicate to the person playing a way of this person feeling familiar even though you don't know them. I ate that stuff up.
If you want my honest opinion, I think what they attempted to do was they wanted to paint Ellie as the bad person. And they did it in a sense of like Abby would end up fighting Ellie at one point, and I didn't want to do that. I was like, why am I feeling? And then I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, man, she just killed all of Abby's friends. Yeah. Like she just did all this crap. Like what would Abby do? And then the crap part is that they reverse it to you on you again, and now you're Ellie fighting Abby, and you're like, I just want this to end.
Yeah.
I just want this all to end. And
that's the point is you want cycles of violence and revenge to end. And you want people doing those things to end. So
I want to jump back a little bit, but on the Abby stuff and whatever, because you're starting to think like, what are they trying to do? Like you're playing as Abby, like what's the point? Like what are we doing here? And I actually thought at some point, I still think it's cool what they did and went with the message of like hate and like Ellie's so mad and it's spreading just kind of like this virus is this hate and this like revenge and trying to get back at all these people and all this other stuff. And then, you know, all these enemies, all these sects of people and like the WLF and the Scars, they're like fighting and all this infighting. Nobody's listening to anybody and they're just trying to kill and revenge. And this cycle just continues. But at one point I thought, this is maybe the storyteller in me. I didn't know what was happening, but I was trying to piece things together. I thought at one point this game was going to be, okay, it stops. Abby's about to shoot, whatever, and then it cuts to Abby, and then you're playing for the other half of the game. And I thought as we were going through, and Abby, you can see Abby start to become more empathetic herself. Ellie doesn't have that. Ellie is like on a revenge thing, and she is not empathetic, really. She's just like, go. Like
There's a reason.
There's go. And I thought at some point that this game was, this is just like a personal side, like, theory I was having while I was playing the game. I thought this game was going to end up being about, and this didn't diminish anything, but I thought the game was going to be about Abby's doing this and she's getting her journey. In the first game, Ellie is the package that they're trying to take to the Fireflies to save humanity. I thought Abby was getting empathy as the package to take to Ellie. Like by the time that they were going to meet, maybe Abby was going to have empathy to share with Ellie. And the moment
did in a way. She let her live twice.
Yeah.
She did. She actually did, and that's so. Here's the thing, right?
She does, partially. Yeah, you're right.
You're getting revenge, but you're seeing it from two sides of the coin. You're seeing it from the person who wants it more than anything in the world, and you're seeing it from the person who just got it, and they're, like they still aren't happy. Yeah. They've given up everything. Owen has moved on and started sleeping with this other girl. That girl hates her. Yeah. Like she has very shallow, like she's just killing because they fell into this other tribe that now they're going to kill the Seraphites. And she's questioning things like, I've put everything on hold. I literally just worked out 7 days a week. I ate like a mule. I focused solely on finding leads to kill Joel. I sacrificed relationship with Owen. I sacrificed my happiness. I sacrificed everything. I finally killed him, and now I'm back home, and my life is foreign to me. I don't even know what life I'm living. Yeah. And that is like the spark of like, so that's why I think she's finding empathy is because
not to say that she didn't find empathy, but I thought that like that was in my head how I played it out. Like she's bringing empathy to Ellie, which like you said, she does. She kind of does,
and Lev almost brings the empathy to this. To me, Lev is like the change agent because Abby, I think, was going to kill Dina in the theater. Like I think she was going to kill Dina, and Lev was like, "Stop!" Like and Abby realized when I killed Joel, Owen, Mel, Manny, everybody, I lost everybody. I can't do that again. I have to stop. And
that's true.
You're
right. It is Lev that's like, hey, chill.
Lev is the one that puts an end to it. And so this game is messy. Like, I think we should talk through characters and what they represent. Owen has a line in this game that I love, which is when you're in the darkness, you're searching for light. And to me, like, that's what this game felt like. It felt like a bunch of people in darkness, and somehow Lev and Abby find light together. And it's them going towards the light that is almost draws Ellie out of the light, even though Ellie's trying to kill them, or at least kill Abby. And I feel like on Abby's side, Owen, I liked him as a character.
Can we back up a little bit and go in the first half? Because I think this game is two halves.
Yeah,
I want to talk about I want to talk about the first half, and then we'll get to Abby and all that other stuff. The first half of this game. So I remember, Travis, you texted me at some point, and you were like, "Yeah, remember that scene they showed at E3 where Dina and they kissed at that dance or whatever? Yeah, is that going to be in here? Because that doesn't come out to the very, very end. It's at the ending, right?
Yeah. I was shocked when it came back, and I loved how they did it. But
because I even told you, I was like, oh, they're going to show it because they worked so hard on it. It'll be on there. I think they just wanted whatever. But man, that does wait till the very end, and I got. Because they talk about it like, oh, what happened at the dance? They talk about the first part of the game. And they're showing me Dina and whatever. And it's like, well, I saw that, but maybe some other people didn't see that, one. And two, I'm kind of thrown into this character. I don't know who it is yet. And from that first half of the game, I don't know about you guys, but I was not connected with Dina. I was connected with Dina 0% I had to the point where I mentioned earlier that this Naughty Dog has the balls, along with Half-Life and Breaking Bad, to let down the audio and only bring in at certain parts or let it be silent. I remember there was a part, I might be a psychopath for what I'm about to say, but maybe I don't have empathy. Maybe I need my Abby to come kill me. But there was a part when you discuss, like, I'm trudging through this first game. I'm not really enjoying it. Like, I feel like some things are too long. There's too many sections. And I remember, I think it's at the movie theater, or maybe before that, Dina says, I'm pregnant. And it cuts to something or does whatever. And I was like, am I supposed to, like, was that, like, shocking to me? Or was that, like, I didn't feel any feeling towards Dina. So that moment didn't hit. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that didn't do anything for me. Yeah. Because I was like, I don't give a frick about Dina. You didn't connect me with her. You didn't do the hard work that you did with Joel and Ellie in the first game to make me connect with them and start to empathize with them and love these characters. You didn't do that. I didn't give a frick. Who cares if she's pregnant? I don't care. Like, that's sad for Ellie. Like, they have a connection. but I'm only caring for Ellie still. Like, I don't know. Like that. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but
I would say go ahead, Jacob.
My whole connection with the idea is that was all pure shock value. I completely agree with you. I give a crap less about Dina. I would say as the game grew on, I cared a little bit more because I knew Ellie really cared about Dina, and it made me kind of have to be invested. But to just say like, oh, Dina's this person who just broke up with this guy, and something happened at the dance with you and Dina. It's like, and even then, they try to give you a chance to read about it through her journal. If you guys took some time to look through her journal, there was exports about Ellie was
stuff
writing.
in the journal, yeah.
Ellie was writing about, I was dating this girl named Kat. It didn't work out. But then there's Dina, who's always my friend and always been there. And it's like, okay, so they're trying to build some sort of thing. And I think this is where the game has to struggle is like, with Last of Us 1, and this is where we have to talk about, you have 4 to 5 characters on the screen at a time. When Last of Us 2 kicks off, they're like, here is 15 people that you need to get invested in.
Yeah, all these different people that we don't know.
I got Tommy. I got Joel. I got Jesse. I got this. And then I got Abby's crew, which I found out I needed to be invested in later on. So it was like, holy crap.
And this person called you a slur, and he's going to give you sandwiches before you go.
I don't care.
Okay, like I guess it catches you up to where Ellie's at, but I don't. They introduce you to all these different characters. Like I don't know who they are. I wish you would have showed me that scene, maybe.
And this is where
maybe that scene should have been at the beginning. I don't know.
And I could argue where it doesn't have to be. I think my thing is like we run into an issue where storytelling is done again when you're able to dive into a set of 1 to 3 characters. When you look at a community. And this is why my biggest complaint at the beginning is I wish I spent more time in Jackson. Because I think if I spent more time in Jackson, I would at least have bigger feelings when moments like that got revealed.
It could have helped with joining with your characters, having empathy for those characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying
maybe just a little bit, yeah.
Not 4 hour, they gave me a snowball fight. Why'd you give me a snowball fight?
Well, they always do that in Naughty Dog games. They do the dart gun in Uncharted 4. They always do something to get you. But
dart gun wasn't my only connection with Drake's wife.
But hold on. In fairness, I don't think that the snowball fight wasn't the problem. The problem was they had an hour and a half in Jackson, and they didn't use a lot of it to make you feel anything for Dina.
No, I spent
snowball fight took up 5 minutes of that.
Yeah.
We were running around, and here's what I will say is I agree. I think out of our group, I probably like Dina probably the most, but I will say, I mean, I wasn't like emotionally caught up in any of what was going on with them. I would say until the very end, and it wasn't because of Dina. I'd grown to at least appreciate Dina somewhat by the end when Ellie walks out on her. It was more Ellie just so sick in the head.
Yeah.
And I felt that. And so to me, Dina served a purpose, but she wasn't a home run.
No.
Right? Like in baseball, she was a single. She was there. It's not the girl that played her. It's just Naughty Dog.
She plays a role in the game, but it's not a significant role.
Yeah.
It's like the person. Yeah, in baseball. I think baseball's the way you hit it. It's single. She's going to advance the game. Is she going to win the game for you? No. Will she play a role? Yeah, you got a single.
And I felt like what they tried to build her up as, she should have been a bit more. I will agree.
If you want to talk in baseball terms, then Jesse was a sacrifice bunt.
Hold on. Yeah, no, hold on. We'll talk about Jesse in a second. I don't even know if you got a sacrifice out of it. He was a pop out. Hold on. I wanted to agree with something. When Dina said she was pregnant, I agree. That was the only time in the game I was like, okay, like, and Ellie's reaction, it actually made me laugh. She said, "Are you kidding me?" She was like, "That's going to help us a lot." And I just laughed. I was like, "Yeah, it's not a great time." It made me feel weird because it felt, I don't know anything about pregnancy. I'll admit that right off the bat.
Oh, I know everything about pregnancy.
But she went from fine enough to travel across the country to in bed, debilitating sick for the next 2 days straight. So, I mean, it's fine. Like, I get it. But to me, she started kind of okay. I liked the stuff with her, and I liked it. I got to feel like they did these patrols, and they were kind of flirting with each other. I was like, okay. What Dina felt like to me was, and you guys, I don't know if you have siblings or if you do, when you have like that person that like your sibling dates when they're like 19 and you're like, you're not marrying this person, but I can tell you really care. So you don't really get personally vested in them, but like you care because it hurts your siblings' feelings when they break up.
Yes.
That's what Dina felt like to me. She felt like that person.
That's a good comparison.
Here for the long haul. I don't think she's here for the long haul, but Ellie's 19. She means a lot to Ellie. It's this girl that she's kind of grown up with, kind of that girl next door thing. So I was like, okay, she's along for the ride. I'll admit I was a little disappointed that I didn't get more invested and that Naughty Dog didn't set me up to be more invested. But if we're going to talk about a character, and I did not know how to feel about the pregnant thing, it ended up being like a parallel to Mel. I thought maybe that's the route they were going to go, and I think that was what the point was.
I guess I can kind of see that.
They didn't earn it. I feel like they wanted
didn't earn it. Yeah.
She killed a pregnant woman when she's protecting a pregnant woman.
I felt more connected to Mel than I did Dina.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Mel was kind of whatever, but so
we got to write better pregnant girls.
Yeah.
Guys.
So Jesse. So I'll admit, like I don't think that, but I think of the three of us, I felt like the first Last of Us wasn't perfect with all its side characters, but I think that makes me a little different than maybe some others. But Jesse.
Can I put one quick note on that? Because that makes sense. I can see that. Like, yeah, they didn't have the best whatever, but I think that they jumped you from area to area and you only experienced episodes with these characters. These games were in there for the long haul. These side characters, I don't give a frick about them. You know what I mean? They were there for the longer haul.
That's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a fair criticism to a point because Dina's really there for the prologue, the first mission, first day, and then after that, you only see her at the in-between. So they feel like they're there for the long haul because they come up in flashbacks and they come up in little side cutscenes.
That's the problem.
But they're not with you the whole time. Like Dina's only with you for one day. You only spend one day with Dina and then the prologue. But other than that, she doesn't play with you.
I'm dating her. Like I have a relationship with her.
The ending is with her. So it's like these are big characters for Ellie. These are bigger.
They play
characters.
big life roles, but in the game they play very small roles.
I agree.
I guess that's where it's like I have a hard time in my brain like connecting them because I think you're going to go ahead and talk about Jesse. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to me, Jesse felt like a genuine wasted character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Waste of time.
I didn't like his performance.
When
his
he got
voice
shot,
actor was kind of weird.
Yeah. When
they even dismiss him like he's just fodder. Like he just gets gunned down.
Hey, the parents even write about like, yeah, it really sucks to see him die. I can't wait to see the kid. And I'm like, man, like, yeah, okay. Like
he just mechanically felt like he only existed to
impregnate Dina.
To be somebody who you could partner with on day 2 with the car scene, because they wanted to keep Tommy kind of in the shadows until a certain later point. I feel like there's a way to redo this story where either Dina doesn't, I don't know. I think it needed a rewrite, and I don't know if his character needed to exist. No. Or if you needed him to exist, he needed a page 1 rewrite from character. What is his motivation? Why is he there? What's his relationship with Ellie and Dina?
When he came back later, I cracked up because I was like, oh, yeah. That guy, I forgot his name, but that guy's back. Like, this is the first Naughty Dog game I think that I forgot people's names in.
Yep.
And I actually had to go onto Wikipedia. I had to like Google a name before we did this review, and I actually forgot it again. But for some of the side characters,
I think I know who you're talking about.
It's their largest cast for sure.
Yeah.
But that's where you're going to have that issue, and that's where it's like. What Naughty Dog did well in Last of Us 1, they had a small set of people, and I agree with you. I think you made a comment. We can say Tess. Tess was probably not the world's greatest side character.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I'm at is Tess also felt like a mechanism. She was the person that was going to know Ellie that could then connect Ellie to Joel. And I get what you're saying of these people last longer. Jesse and Tess are really good comparisons. Like, to me, they felt like equal in terms of quality.
Yeah, but Tess didn't get someone pregnant.
But I see what you're saying.
Tess also brought the Miracle Girl into the game. So, I mean...
okay.
I don't know.
No, I'm not going
to... So, I'm not trying to absolve this game of having iffy characters.
Yeah.
It does. It does in a couple spots. I thought that was true.
I think that leaves, and this is where I think Joel's a bigger conversation than Tommy. Tommy's character in this game, is exactly not what I was expecting. Because if I'm being honest with you, from the approach of Last of Us 1 Tommy.
Yeah, I was about to say, you have a more fresh how he was in the first one. Yeah. I felt like he was, if we're talking more side character, he wasn't bad or whatever. It was Joel's, like they kind of have a brother kind of thing there.
Yeah, brother bond. But Tommy always came across as the level-headed one, where Joel came across as the like depressed, sometimes extremist kind of person, where he was kind of, because like Tommy ran off, did his thing, and then he settled. And when you come meet Tommy in Last of Us 1, you meet a settled man who has a buddy family.
That's true. I remember that.
He is calm. So, Joel is now dead, and you see Tommy just frick this.
But that's a thing that actually happens to people is when they have siblings or close who die. One, they kind of go off the rails, and two, that is a real psychological dynamic. And I've actually known people, they'll have a sibling that dies and they'll take on certain characteristics of their persona. Like I knew a guy that he didn't have any tattoos and he had a brother that had tattoos and was in bands and he died. The brother died. And the other guy, this guy's in his mid-20s, late 20s. He started getting all these tattoos and dyeing his hair and stuff. Like I didn't know him super well, but it's just a thing that people do is they change and they think about the people. So like, to me that felt consistent, but
and I don't think that was the issue I have with Tommy at all. If anything, it made Tommy a little bit more significant.
I thought Tommy
more significant in this game.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Because you saw someone who he is. If I'm being honest, Ellie's seeking out forgiveness, but she didn't know it. And Tommy's trying to push her to rage and revenge, and he's seeking rage and revenge. When he showed up at the farm. And he looked mangled.
That was so painful.
He looked, and you can tell he's just hurting. He's like, I think I found her. And right here, and they're screaming at each other. And Ellie's in the back, like, I still haven't put this to bed. Like, I'm still dealing with it. And it's like he just opened a wound on her.
Yeah.
And,
I thought that was some of Dina's best character work, by the way, when she was trying to defuse Tommy and get him out of the house.
I thought that was,
I thought that was like, okay, Dina cares. Like she says, I care about you. I'll go and fight with you. Mm-hmm. But like, that was when I was like, okay, she actually is going to do the heavy lifting. That's,
and if anything, Tommy's reaction to Joel, like the relation, when Tommy walks in with Ellie, says, give me 1 day, kiddo. Give me 1 day. And then he just ups and leaves. It's like, that's a Joel move. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like those two are a lot alike when it like push comes to shove. Yeah. And I think it was just really cool. I really did like Tommy's character because Travis, you hit on the head. I think the evolution of what happened to Joel really drove Tommy to, cut everything. He cut it all. Like, he's like, all I care about is finding out where this girl is and how I'm going to kill her.
Well, and even when he was ready to give up and go back from Seattle, then, Jesse got killed and he's one that basically drugged Jesse out there. And then he got shot and was crippled practically and, couldn't see straight and lost his wife. I mean, that's enough to make a guy real bitter. And this game went down that road in a way you just don't see in games. I feel like I have to stop and say this is a video game.
Yeah.
Like you don't see that level. That's like Breaking Bad level of showing what would happen to someone. It reminded me of what you see happens to Skylar at the end of Breaking Bad. You see how just all of it, because it jumps a year. Well, I won't say what, but just you see where she's at in life at the end episode. And you're like, man, that sucks. But that is exactly where she would be right now.
Yeah.
And that is where Tommy's kind of at in this game is it's just real. It's just real. You can see the arc of why he got
This is where, Joel in this game, small but impactful is the best way for me to put it. Because I truly see love and then heartbreak with this man. And I don't know who plays Joel, but the face animations during the cutscenes when he's getting ripped apart by Ellie, and you just see it's like you yelling at your dog, and your dog.
Troy Baker plays him, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Oh man, he just the pain on his face.
Yes, and it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so, because again, you just get
that's the stuff that to me just makes this so worth it.
Yes, and so Joel's character was such a beautiful character of love, finding love again, and that's why I think people got their heart broken when they made the decision with Joel. But when you see the flashbacks, and you see Joel taking Ellie out on her birthday, and it's like, oh, this is this is nice, man. Like he really, really, really cares.
There's a key moment when
Yes. Go ahead.
he mentions his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
like casually, like
Yep.
to Ellie, because Ellie's asking about something. He's like, yeah, I don't, Katie, I think, or what's her name? Did he say her name? He says, yeah, she really liked this. And I was like, he got what his character. This is something we didn't see at the end of the first one because it was still so fresh. But like he got to that place of comfort with Ellie that he could just talk about his daughter and just mention her and say something she liked to Ellie. And it, like, to me, that was the mark of this was a man that fully, at least for that window of time before Ellie cut off communication with him, and after the first game, he was able to fully be a human being and not have to hold all this stuff back.
And I think it was telling us the number one argument with Joel's death was always, Joel wouldn't have fell for that. The Joel in Last of Us 1 ran through people. That's true. I wrote this in the review, and the more and more I've sat on it and chewed on it, I do think that over time, our heart does soften, and people do change. And Joel and Tommy were sitting together and like, we can go back to Jackson, get you fed, get you back. They built a community around people, and they were more homey and more welcome, and it bit Joel in the butt.
Yeah, and if you look at Joel, because I had recently played this part too in the very beginning, Joel is like shooting people and very violent in that first part of Last of Us 1. Like because he's in a different environment. Yeah. It's like I can die any second, and we're like, this is fricked up right now with like fireflies and all these inner fighting. Like he's in a different headspace where, what you just said, Jacob, of we can get you fed, we got this, we have this community. Yeah, you're not really like right now. I'm not thinking about like World War III, but he might have been that. You know what I mean? Like if this is different and COVID keeps going, I don't know. Maybe I'm shooting people. I don't know. Maybe I turned into Joel in the first game, but you know what I mean? Like, that makes sense. Like he's all, his guard is down, I think is the way to.
Yeah. And I think it just sucks because, his death was a catalyst for the game, and it's the reason the game exists and the reason the story continued the way it did. But I get the anger. I don't get the review bombing. I don't get the things because of the things that happened to Joel, and because Joel is very much a part of the game. He was very much a part of the game. And
I get disappointment if you wanted more of him in terms of gameplay. I also get, Zach, you had mentioned that you felt like that bait and switch from that one trailer that came out like a year ago. I get if somebody for some reason really latched onto that and was like, this is going to be about Joel and Ellie together. I feel like there's been plenty of trailers and game days and streams since then that should have probably set your expectations that he wasn't the biggest deal in this game, but I get it. But for the people to say they betrayed his character, I'm like, we fundamentally can't talk about storytelling.
They evolved his character.
This stuff's subjective, but like they had so many dimensions and character moments that don't betray who he was at all and show you all these other dimensions across time and across depth that to me, when you
kill off a main character, and this is clearly seen in Last Jedi on a bigger scale of mainstream media or whatever, you're getting people that are going to be mad about that because of hero worship. They love these certain characters and these images and they're icons. They can draw a silhouette of Han Solo and it's Han Solo. You know what I mean? Like these icons are being destroyed. That gives a reaction. But two, and this is where I had challenges with the game. I'm fine with killing Joel, but do you earn it? And that's where it's like, okay, now what are you going to do with that? Like, what is the cost of that life? And I didn't see that fully realized for me. But
let me ask you a question, Zach. If they had cleaned up, maybe you play as 2 days as each of the girls and you don't have Jesse and there's a couple less scenarios. It's a little more focused. And thematically, it really is just honing in on the Joel and Ellie parallel and then the Ellie Abby revenge. And they cleaned up some of the Ellie Abby revenge stuff that you felt like if it was cleaner, but the stuff you like was still there, do you think you would have felt better?
Yeah.
Like, is it that they fundamentally didn't land the plane, or you felt like the plane ride was too long and too bumpy? Because those are two different things.
The side I'll go into.
I feel like they landed this plane, and I feel like you're on the same page with that. I feel like the stuff got lost in the middle that you didn't like.
I think that the first half of this game, I was not having a fun time. There are cool freaking moments in the first 50% of this game. But, and I even will go this to far to say the parts I enjoyed even, or sections that I enjoyed, I felt that this game had a problem. And the first Last of Us had this problem too, but only one or two times I can really point out. I was like, ugh, get me to the freaking next part. Like, get me to that gold dome or get me to that part. This game had a problem. I had a personal problem where I felt like every single section of this game, if we're talking 100% chunks of each section, was one like 25% way too long. I felt I would be playing a section. It's like, yeah, we got to get to the hospital or we got to get to that building. And then I would be playing for so long and I'd be like, oh, I'm enjoying myself. Or oh, that part was kind of hard. And it would be like, there it is. And going back to like, that's good. That's visually where you're at. I was like, God, I have another 5 hours, like, or to get this section done or I want to see this character or whatever. And I felt that way continuously. This is just me throughout the entire game. I felt like the game went 25% too long every single section, to the point where we're not talking about the second section yet, the second half. Spoiler alert, I did like it better. But that first half, I was like, God almighty, I feel like I'm just, and that might go along with the bleakness of the game too. I don't know. I just felt like I was miserable at certain parts of this game playing it. But
it's really interesting. And you're not, I would say out of our group, I've heard more people feel that way. So like, you're not alone. To me, this is the first Naughty Dog game I played that I actually was engaged with every single scenario. And I felt the pacing. I felt like it took its time, but to me, it felt like watching, a good long season of Breaking Bad, right? Like, to me, there were definitely characters I didn't necessarily care the most about, but like the core stuff, I was so engaged. I was ready to see the next flashback. I was ready to see the next thing. I was a little worried when we first changed to Abby because I was like, do I have to re-upgrade all my guns from scratch? But then they changed the loadout and they give you some things right off the bat that
they sped run her.
They got her up to speed really. And she's a soldier. Yeah. So I respect what you're saying, Zach. I hear you. And that's why I asked the question is when you say they didn't earn it, I really do. And maybe you're still processing. Did they not earn it in terms of where they landed? Joel and Ellie are the heart of this game. Joel and Ellie are the heart of the first game. They're the heart of the whole story. The Last of Us is Joel and Ellie. Like, I believe that, right? Yes. So if you still get the resolution in terms of her character to his character, but it's structured differently and the pacing is better, do you think they would have earned it? Do you think that they didn't earn it in the pacing and the structure of this, or in fundamentally you did not resonate with where they did? That's
a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I think the answer,
when you say they didn't earn it, that could mean two different things.
I think the answer to that is that it's so muddied that I'll compare it to a friend tells a joke in a group of friends and it gets a huge laugh. And then that same friend keeps explaining the joke and he won't get off the stage. And the term is, and the creators of Breaking Bad, go back on Breaking Bad. This is a Breaking Bad review podcast. If you guys couldn't tell, but you got to get off the stage before you're told to get off the stage. And I felt like this game was a slog at certain points. They're not building these characters. I don't care about these characters. When Ellie and Joel flashbacks coming on, I'm going, yippee! Like, I'm enjoying those parts the most. That is what I mean by not earning the death, I guess, because it's like I'm slogging through all of this to get this. If I was to, what would be what would have made me, like this game more? Cut everything by 25%, like kind of shave off this kind of, there was parts when I just felt like it was a slog, when I felt like I get whatever. And we'll talk about more on that in the second section, the second half of the game. But I think, that's a good point to think through. Like, ultimately I liked the flashbacks and I liked where they kind of ended up on certain things, but I don't know. And one other thing I wanted to talk about, and this maybe goes into the whole game as a whole, but when they had the flashback at the hospital, there's a big story moment where that happens and Ellie finds the audio tape. That's her big reveal of, I have now found out that you have lied to me.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. That was a pretty big scene that I was like, whoa, I'm like all eyes on the scene, because this goes back to E3 20 whatever when they said we're making it Last of Us 2. You know, do we need to make this? So I'm like, oh shoot, they have this ending that's perfect. Do we need to additionally add to that? And that scene goes, and they get mad at each other, and he's like, you know, they were going to kill you. And she gets mad at Joel, and it's like, let's just go. And she's pissed. And that scene happens. And I went to sleep immediately after that. Tried to go to bed, and I was up for 20 minutes just laying in bed going, did we need that scene? Did this need to perspire? Like, I started questioning the game as a whole. And that's something maybe I'm still processing as I'm speaking right now, and we're about to do a review, and I'm like processing a lot of stuff. You guys have been having some good points. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, I struggle to see, like, if I didn't play this game, and maybe this is going to go into like the final stuff, and I'll leave it at that. But, you know, maybe it's a question for you guys right now. Like, what did you guys think of that scene? Or like, where did...
To me, that's a good question.
I struggled with that scene like a lot. Like, did we need this?
To me, when that scene occurred, I felt like I was getting a window into the inevitability, right? So you could talk about it from two angles. There's the execution, which is the actual method and mechanism of how she finds out. And I'll be honest, I felt like it was a little on the nose that she literally went back to the hospital and
found the audio recorder.
saw. Yeah. So, like, I don't know that was the best way, like, in terms of her to physically find out, to actually go there and see it. Because I'm thinking, like, how far is this from Jackson? Like, how did he know she went there? Like,
yeah. What if Abby revealed it to her? Or, you know what I mean? Or some other thing.
So I get that. Well, but then if Abby reveals it to her, then you don't have this 5 years of her and Joel not talking.
That's true.
So, like,
that's true.
She had to find out. So to me, as someone who holds nothing sacred, but, like, I try to not think through, and it's hard when you love something so much, right? For you, it's probably easier for me where I'm not as gripped by the first one. To me, like, I try not to think of, do we need that or not? Because I don't know where it's going, and I don't want to color my end result feeling. So when it happened, I just thought, man, that's powerful that she found out, and it's powerful. Now I know, because what you get there, you don't just find out that how she found out. You find out in that moment that she stopped talking to him, which you did not know prior to that. In the beginning of the prologue, you see the guitar thing, and then she's running around with Dina in modern day, and she's saying, Joel wants to watch a movie. That was awkward last night. I think I'm going to go watch a movie with him. You don't know the weight of that until later. You don't know her watching a movie with him tonight, which doesn't happen, is the first time they're going to really spend together in 5 years. You don't know. So to me, finding out that she found out so early was kind of shocking, but I also started to piece together immediately, oh my God, that's why she's on this journey. She literally wrote him out of her life. So to me, like, that's why I really loved it. And it felt like everything I was experiencing with Ellie had a new dimension to it of, this isn't her on a revenge. That was when I really started to realize this is her feeling guilty that she cut him out of her life. Like, to me, it recontextualized what I was playing.
What happened to me, because that scene didn't do that for me. I already knew. Did they not reveal, now that you're talking about it?
That's when they revealed it.
I kind of already knew that they had a falling out, and I assumed it was because she figured out what had happened.
That was when it was pieced together for me in that scene.
Not,
so I don't know.
Not saying whatever, because I'm the worst at, like, you didn't see that, so I'm the worst at that. But I felt like at that point that I'd kind of piece that together, but I don't know.
The way I looked at it was each flashback was a build on their time, because when the first flashback happened with them, Ellie knew something was wrong in the car. She turned around. They meant to show, like, her face in the Last of Us 1. When she turned around in the seat and went back to sleep, she was dissatisfied. Like, something just wasn't. She was resonating on something. Then you flash back to when she was a kid, fresh out of everything, and her and Joel are venturing around some stuff, you know. And then you do a flashback where Tommy's with her, teaching her how to shoot, and they're like, you know, you and Joel should really go together. You know, like, he's trying to, because you can tell Ellie.
She hasn't written him off yet, but you can tell they're distant.
There's a falling out. So
no, they hadn't fallen out yet, though, Zach.
Yeah.
She was being kind of moody towards him
because she had something on her chest, and finally she brought it up.
And she brought it up.
And he was like, I told you we don't talk about that.
And
totally
that's
what
why
happened.
she went.
See, and I think I think I had saw that and went, she had, so it goes back to the ending of Last of Us 1 where it's like the ambiguity and whatever. And it's like, part of me feels like maybe,
I mean,
like, it's like the friend explaining why the joke is funny. It's like, just let us have the good laugh. Like, that was a really good laugh. Like, don't keep explaining the joke. And I felt like they had the falling. She wasn't talking to him. There was some tension between them, and I felt like, yeah, she must still be thinking Joel's lying to me. Okay, get off the stage. And then they find the recorder and they find that, and it's
Zach. There's a difference between tension and not really getting along, and finding out the truth and cutting them out of your life for 5 years. To me, there's a difference. And that scene is when you find out that's
that's when it goes also, like nuclear. Yeah.
But to me, it's not comedy, and that's where your metaphor falls apart for me. Is it's not a joke that then in this movie or in this game they're explaining why it's funny, or it's not an ambiguous moment, and then in this game they're explaining why it's awkward. To me, it's like showing the fallout, like.
Yeah, I guess
I love that because it's so hard.
And I questioned.
I
don't know if I needed it. That's a preference. That's a preference, because when that happened and that scene ended, I went, God Almighty! I had to reprocess.
But in the end of the first one,
I had to reprocess all these feelings that I had about them even making the game, and I went, did I need that? I don't know.
But now that you know how it ends, at the end of the first one, you have two people who care about each other, but they are not honest. Mm-hmm. And by the end of this game, you have two people who love each other, have gotten to a place of honesty and acceptance. Because Ellie realizes, in the moment she's trying to kill Abby, Joel was killing so I could stay alive. And I'm killing because he was killed. For the first time, I actually understand how he felt in that hospital.
Yeah.
And she stops.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, do we need it? Like, I kind of need it. Like, I kind of want to know that those characters got to a place of resolution, because they sure as hell weren't resolved in the first one.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like a resolving note that brings the whole thing together. Like, the first one is like a game that it's all this building and this relationship, and then there's awkwardness at the end. Yeah. And this one is it's awkward, really, really messed up. And then at the end, it's final acceptance. It's like a mirror to me.
Yeah.
I find a lot of satisfaction in that.
That's true.
But
that's a good point.
I guess the way I look at the scene in the sense was they attempted to show that Joel moved on and Ellie didn't. And that bled into her character for all those years.
Yeah.
Ellie has a very bad problem of moving on from things. And it carried over to Joel's death and her going on a revenge thing. Yeah. It was because Ellie couldn't get over the fact that Joel probably lied to her. And she had some kind of like feeling that something was right. And was she right? Yeah. Was Joel wrong? Yeah. But Joel was able to move on because you show him trying to do everything above and beyond, of connecting with Ellie, where Ellie is like slowly moving away. And it finally came to a head when she went to that place and she found the tape, and now they're sitting there and Joel was forced to tell the truth.
Yeah.
But Zach, to your point though, in between those flashbacks, you're doing 5 to 6 hours of running around with Dina or running around with Jesse doing unrelated things.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from. I'm not saying your view's not valid, and I'm still struggling with some of this stuff too. But
yeah, I think the pacing was muddied for me. The pacing was all over the place, and I felt similar to this game as I did with as much as I enjoyed the flashbacks and all this other stuff and them sprinkling all this stuff. I felt similar. I had recently, me and my wife rewatched Lost, and in season 5 of Lost, spoiler alert, there's just a lot of flashbacks. They jump 30 years, they jump 20 years, they jump last week, next Tuesday. And I felt like this
1987.
Yeah, and I felt like this game kept doing it. I was like, I don't know what time period I'm in anymore on some of this stuff. Like I was getting lost in the amount of 2 weeks later. 1 year before, and they keep like 3 years, 2 years before, and 1 year, and they're trying to catch up. And I know what they're trying to do, but just like I felt like Lost is my favorite show, and that season I went, this is my least favorite season because I'm getting lost. Like you're not letting me. That's a creative choice.
Some of the way this was structured is like Lost season 5 for you, and even though you get to the ending, which maybe you didn't like the ending of this as much as the end of Lost, like it works out in the end, but it's probably your least favorite season. And day 1, 2, 3 with Ellie is your least favorite stuff.
It got a bit much. I'm a fan of flashbacks. I'm a fan of whatever. I think them showing the flashbacks to Abby, like it gave me I finally started to warm up to Abby. Like flashbacks are good, but when you do this and then you're back here and then you're back this and then you do this, it's all over the place where it's like, it's a little bit much to get from point A to point B. I like Lost, and Lost can get a mess too of that. So I understand that people can be, so I am the worst offender of liking stuff like that. But this was one game that like,
that's a totally fair.
That's my limits.
I understand.
Oh my gosh, sorry. My bad.
Sorry, I bored you, Jacob.
No, it's not that. It's just a long gone. Zach, I agree with you. I do think the pacing of the first 3 days was inconsistent. Where the flashbacks, I feel like was consistent and the story was not. To the point where like you're either going, 20 miles per hour and then you get 80 miles per hour. Like there's no in between. Where I feel like the flashbacks was the complete opposite. I feel like they had flashbacks built upon each other and they're slowly like leading up to this grand finale of when frick you, Joel. And that right there was perfect. It just had a hard time because it wasn't meshing. And I think your comparison to Lost was probably a pretty accurate one in that sense. But then that leads me to, let's talk the 3 days with Abby.
Can we please talk Abby? Please talk Abby.
So first half didn't like. Let's get to the second half.
Yeah, second half of the game, they really.
Can we talk the handoff real fast? That scene in the theater.
Go ahead.
And they're like starting to act like they're wrapping it up, and they're going to go back, and then it's just like boom, psh, like people getting killed, and Abby's in there, and she's like, "Why are you here?" Like she's literally like, "What? You're the girl from friggin'," and she's like, "We let you live, and you friggin' wasted it." And I was immediately like, "Holy crap! This is the end, right? Like this is the end of the game." And it's not. So go ahead, Jake.
So we pick up with Abby, and when we pick up with Abby, I think what they did was awesome because the same way that they did with Ellie, they introduce you to the community that they're surrounded by. Here you have Abby, who has a roommate, who they're currently living in CenturyLink Stadium, which I thought was awesome.
I thought that was so cool. That's where the Seahawks. That's where the Seahawks play, and it looked just like it.
This is awesome, and they're living in the clubhouse, like they
made it really believable too. They had like livestock, and they had a gym and schools.
Yeah, it was
it's a way to humanize the WLF after you just spent the last 10 hours like brutally killing all of them.
Exactly. So Abby's trucking through. They just got back from the thing. They're kind of like getting put out in reassignment now. And you start getting introduced to her crew, and you get introduced to I think his name's Manny, and his father, who can't eat. He's struggling. And they're going out with Mel, and Manny's begging him to reconnect with Mel, which you already knew a little bit after traveling that, like, Owen had some kind of like relationship with Mel because I think Abby made a comment to it.
Yeah, Owen tells, and it's a long time. That is one of the things is they introduce these characters, and then you do not see them forever until Ellie kills 2 of them. And then now they're like building off of like the seed that was planted earlier, which was, Owen telling Abby that Mel's pregnant. And Abby's like, what are you serious? And now it's like we're getting some follow-up on that, like 12 hours later.
You get introduced, I think what's cool about day 1, you get introduced, I think, to 2 sets of flashbacks, one in the middle of the day and one towards the end of the day. But I think that's just where, like, day 1 of Abby is not hard to be invested in. And the reason why I say this is she plays a critical role in the sense of revenge because of what Joel did to her father. And you sit there and you're like,
hey, can I just jump real quick to jump into that? Like,
yes.
The way they reveal that.
I did think that was a fun ideal to be like, hey, it's the guy that was going to operate and kill Ellie.
Yeah.
That's his daughter. Yeah. I thought that was like, okay, like that's a good premise. So, like, let's go ahead. And
I felt like the Lost season 2, when you start to see the tail section, or Lost season 3, when you see the others, I felt this crew felt like the others to me, where I never loved them as much. But it's like Juliet and Ben, and like I was like, these people I'm interested. They're not the most interesting people in the world. I like them
I'm
a lot better than
intrigued.
Dina and Jesse.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, they're building a background. It reminded me of those other people from Lost.
I do think what this day tries to do is fast track you in the sense of
it's like a military shooter almost at the beginning. You're in a truck and there's people coming down on their horses and then you're holed up in a
holy crap, like you're going. Like it's like right off the gates, they shoot you out. The only thing I kind of left after day one, after everything that transpired in the sense of she goes through and captures all of her equipment back, she battles some infected. I really, really liked when they introduced what was it? The infected and the people. I don't think we talked about that, by the way.
Infected and people able to fight alongside at the same time.
They did that with Ellie.
That was a cool thing. Yeah, we did.
They did that with Ellie. They did it again with what you call it, Abby as well. I think though, my biggest complaint with day one was I wasn't quite ready to accept the fact that I had to play as Abby, and that's what made it really difficult for me to enjoy it. Because it ends on such a weird note. I literally, I sat there, I put the controller down, I turned the game, I was like, I don't know where we're going. And I walked away. I was like, at this point, I was like, I don't know where this game is going.
Just because they have sex, or
no, just because I don't understand it. I don't understand the relationship. It was like all this stuff.
They invested in the relationship a lot at that point. They showed that when they were younger, they did flashbacks, 2 sets of flashbacks. You see, she was close to him and her dad. You see that she was you see that she was with him basically, and he was trying to be with her, and he tried to kiss her, and she pushed away because she was focused on Joel.
Yeah.
And and then you had her with Mel all day talking about Owen, and she was jealous. You could tell that there's a tension there. So now she's frustrated. She's got a connection with Owen that goes way back. They've explored the aquarium. They've had that the aquarium's a special place for them. So
I think what Jacob's trying to say is the graphics were getting too good.
No, it wasn't. I was not ready for video game sex. No, but 2. I have never been to the point, which I hate how movies and stuff does that, where 2 people are passionately fighting, they're both calling each other stupid, and boom, sex breaks out. And I was like, how does that happen?
We don't need to talk, Jacob. I don't know.
Hey, look, I'm not married. I don't have a girlfriend. I get that. I'm fine, whatever.
Okay.
This is a whole other podcast.
I don't relate to that. So when that happened, I was just like, I was at that point, I was like, this right here is something that I'm not enjoying.
That's fair, Jacob. Let me say I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
I knew
nothing of the way they set it up. I saw it coming. I just was like, yeah, he's not in love with Mel, and this is just kind of an awkward situation, and they have a special connection. They've been through hell together.
Yeah.
I was not.
You guys just said they just need to have sex already.
Well, no, I just when it happened, I was like, okay, this has a lot of weight. He's gotten another girl pregnant. That girl does not like Abby. And I felt like they paid that through, because then when Mel finds out, she's really taking Abby to task. You're a murderer. You're sleeping with, she doesn't say it, but she knows it. And then she's crying. And then I thought it made you empathize with Abby, because her life's broken. Her life's a mess.
That was just day one. So that was just day one.
What I'm saying is you can call it day one, but you've been through a lot more than what you've been through on Ellie's day one at that point.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I just think I wasn't quite ready. I think it picks up a lot more.
I will say that I respected, if we're talking the mess, I already said that this game was a mess to me. I respect the balls to put you in the shoes of the killer of Joel, and that's who you're playing with, riding Metal Gear Solid 2 style. Even worse. I think it's worse.
It's worse, yeah.
It's worse.
I don't think any game has ever done something quite like that.
To do that. So for that, kudos for them to do that. I immediately did not. If there was a chart that showed investment in this game or whatever else, I think this was actually the low point of okay, now I'm with this freaking girl that I hate, and I think it picks up. And I think it picks up, and we actually come back up on the chart.
I agree with you with that. I just was confused. I was like, I have no idea.
We'll talk the birds and bees later, Jacob.
That's fine.
But yeah, from there on, I think they start building Abby's character. When they're in the camp, I wanted to say too, that was cool in the stadium. They're showing this different side. They're showing they're peeling back, the curtain for the WLF. And I know this happens a little bit later, but I think it might be right around this point. I can't remember, but you actually go back to an area. I thought this was cool, little subtle thing. You go back to an area that you were killing wolf members as Ellie. So you're shooting those people, and you're coming back, and you're just waltzing through, and there's people on the radio. And I started noticing that little tent, and I was like, "Oh, this is an area that I was actually at with Ellie shooting."
Yeah,
and now,
you hear other things too. Like there's a point where they're like in Ellie's story where they're like, "There's a sniper at the marina causing a bunch of problems," and as Ellie, you're like, "Maybe it's Tommy. I don't know, but I'm doing something else. I'm not worried about it." And then when you're in Abby's story, that is like a set piece. Like that's a whole freaking thing. And what my fear was when you first started playing as Abby was I was scared that you were going to be like running into Ellie constantly. And it would be like you're seeing the other side of everything Ellie did. And I liked that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Abby's story, literally, she doesn't even know Ellie's around. Like it doesn't even occur to her that Ellie, and it's what I love so much is when you're in revenge and you hate somebody, you think that they're aware that you hate them. They don't even freaking think about you. They don't even care. They are not even aware, and you're eating yourself alive. I feel like this game captured that so well. Of those 3 days with Ellie, she's like, Abby's such a bitch. I'm going to kill her. I'm killing all her friends. She knows I'm killing her friends. She knows I'm coming for her. And Abby is on the moon. She doesn't know what's going on with her. She's worried about the scars. She's worried about Owen. She's worried about Lev and trying to help with this surgery and getting in this hospital. And I just love it perfectly painted. You know what? A lot of times when you hate somebody, you're only hurting yourself. They don't even know that you're thinking about them. That's just a side note. But.
Yeah. But I mean, it goes with the theme of like this hate breeds hate and breeds this cycle, and it keeps continuing just like the virus. It's like, we're all clickers in this sense.
I do think the only part that I was kind of disjointed was the introduction of Yara and Lev, because
that's who I had to look up. I forgot Yara's name.
Oh yeah. So Yara and Lev was people who at the beginning you were really confused on why they were helping you. I think it was because Yara was being tracked down and she ended up running into this, and then Ellie somewhat assisted her. Not Ellie, Abby somewhat assisted her, and she was like, just cut her down. And like it was just one of those quick decisions that they made.
I think that's exactly what it was, because they're getting ready to gut Abby, and she's on the noose, and then they drag up Yara, and they call her like a whatever, and then they break Yara's arm, and then when she backs up, Abby grabs the person, and I think you're exactly right. I think that's why they cut her down, because they already killed the people. They're not going to sit here and watch her hang. They're in this together at that moment.
So then when you get to
and that scene when the stalkers are running out of the woods and you've got
I want to say that was a highlight for me, and that was where I think previous to that scene, I honestly from the beginning of the game to whatever, I was like really trending downwards. I finally start trending upwards again. I was not invested really in the game at that point. In my playthrough, I was kind of really down on the game. And that point when you're running through the thing, what I love is world building and lore, and they're starting to do that with the wolf a little bit, but wolves and stuff. But I love that. Just little things that I love is Liv going, the demons are coming, and they have a name for the clickers. Like we have a name for clickers and the demons, and I love that. Like running through and hear them scream, and that environment running through the woods. Oh, I love that. Like
awesome.
The demons are coming. It's like, oh, that's cool. Like for me to.
I think the thing was like really cool was day 2 when she went back to him and he was using a gun. Because if anything, it showed more and more his willingness to turn back on his culture because they didn't
That's a
use
good.
technology.
I didn't even think about that. He used a bow, and then when she was trying to break in,
it was do or die. She's trying to save people. He was using a gun.
I didn't think about that. He was desperate. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they rescue him, and then the whole thing was like, hey, she's gonna lose her arm. It needs to be amputated. Well, we don't have the stuff to amputate it. And you can tell like Mel's sitting here like, Abby's doing this to us again. Like you can get that feeling through the content. Like she has run us through another one of like her. Charades. Like you can tell Mel's discontent. And Noah's like, let's just do it. Like he's just like he's all aboard.
Owen is no path forward. I'm flipping with this girl. This girl's pregnant. We're all gonna go meet the Fireflies together. It's gonna be great. Like he is. I really liked his character and like the way he did the aquarium up. I'm sorry to detract from what you're saying, but I just have to say this. The aquarium from Ellie's perspective is dark and it's scary, and there's blood on these tables, and you're like, some savages live here, some really evil people live here.
Yeah, I like that.
And then you see it
changed.
from the other side. It's like, this was like Owen's like hangout, and they kept the dead guy over there, and they like, you know, they did dart gun stuff, and the blood isn't from anything bad. They were trying to amputate someone's arm so they could stay alive.
Yeah.
You know, like they totally take that
part.
environment when you see it from Ellie's perspective and then from Abby's. This place of hate and scariness is this place of like love, and it's a place of safety for the other group. I had to say that in general.
No, I loved it. I think the coolest part about day 2, or at least one of the coolest parts, was the sky bridge and Abby's interaction with the sky bridge. And I don't know if you guys noticed this. So I think they hinted that Abby had vertigo.
In the very beginning.
Yes. So if you look down as Abby, the camera faded away.
It does that effect of like when you look down and it like everything go far away and everything else go wide. Mm-hmm. Did you do that at all, Zach?
No, I didn't.
You look down with her, it did a crazy thing.
And I was like, it really gave you a sense of vertigo, because when people say that when they have vertigo, it's like you lose a sense of where you're at and you lose a sense of balance. And so what would happen if you stared long enough, she'd just fall. Because like she lost.
I did
balance.
Fall one time,
mm-hmm.
and I wasn't trying to, but
so many games try to make you feel like it's scary being up here and fail. And this game, like it was just the right combination of things. I was like, oh my god!
It was one aspect that they nailed, and it goes back to sound design. It was that kind of like that wind that you would hear if you're that high up. If you've ever been up on a high slide or something, whatever else. Circuit, I don't know what it is, or fair, but like that kind of stuff. And I remember hearing like beams and stuff, like the weight of the beams and the wind hitting it, like all that. You're high up, like it really nailed that.
So then they get into the wolf's face. She lies. And
wait! You skipped one of the best parts.
The
hotel.
Yeah, so they fell.
Oh my gosh!
Right, I forgot.
When you got to get the gas mask and you're going through that hotel, and there are people popping out of the walls.
Yeah, So you
get the flamethrower. It felt like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
I did forget. They fell into the pool. Like they fell off the sky bridge. And when they got to the hotel, I was like, I think my only complaint with the hotel was like the red and black lighting that was being like around. I didn't really like that because like
it's supposed to be scary.
Well, it was just like it was.
I didn't like it. It was scary. What do you mean it's fake?
Man.
Like it's just like. Why would I don't know? Where did the red lights come from in the hotel? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Why do they still have lights on? Like, why is there still like?
I'd have to go back and see it. I don't know.
Didn't she have to hit a generator? She went and hit a generator and was the backup.
Sometimes there's emergency lights and stuff.
No, I thought that was in the hospital. She had to go do a generator.
Was it in the hotel as well?
I don't remember her doing a generator in a hotel. I don't know. I just was like, I did love, Travis, you said it, the overgrown people into the wall, and then they jump out.
Those people jumping out.
I was like, oh, this is awesome.
That. I put that up at the workbench of like buzz off. That's scaring the crap out of me.
So yeah, that part right there was like, it was slowly building. Then you get to the base.
Hospital.
And then it was so funny. She walked in, she's like, yeah, it's like one of those really bad, like, you're really just winging it right here.
You have no plan. Yeah.
Isaac told me to come grab his stuff, and you're like, you don't think they would want to, hey, Isaac, I got Abby here, like, collecting, and they let her in. I got the
impression she's higher up in the ranks.
That's what, and they wrote, and you wouldn't go everything to protocol if you see the same person you always see.
I just started
But I agree, Jacob. She was winging it.
She was winging it 100%, and I think
because even they were confused. They were like, "Wait, we're supposed to be here now. Why are you over here?" But they caught on. But they did catch on.
So they catch her. Hey, you run into the girl that Ellie kills.
Yeah.
Nora.
No, well, her too.
Yeah, Nora. It was Nora.
Yeah.
The girl with the PSP.
The PS Vita. You run into her, and then so then she gets captured, and then Nora does. How do I put Nora? Nora is like. How do I say this? I don't want to say she's not particularly a fart in the wind. She is not a fart in the wind.
She's not particularly deep, but she's just a real friend, right? Like
she's just a
right
friend.
To the death. She won't tell Ellie where Abby is, and she's like, that dick got what he deserved. Because from what she knows, all she knows, if you had a friend whose dad was killed and their whole gang got destroyed, you would just think that guy sucked. That guy wrecked our whole lives. So like, yeah, she's not going to tell Ellie like, yeah, I mean, Abby, you know, we had to do what we had to do. She's going to say that guy was a prick and you're a prick too. You know what I mean? Like, but I agree. She was acted well. She was looking out for her friend. I wasn't like, oh, I feel so bad now that Ellie killed her. I mean, I felt bad, but yeah, I felt like she was okay.
I would almost say that was the case. I think what was cool here, which let's talk about that in a second. So then they tell her that the only way she can get the supplies, she has to go to the bottom floor of the basement where ground zero happens.
Yes, and that is where, again, me world building and all that stuff. Hey, this is where the outbreak happened. Cool, we get to explore that? Okay, like, I'm down for that. That was one of the cool points of the game for me.
I was scared.
This is where Naughty Dog, I felt like, went... They exceeded to a tier of environment and atmosphere that I don't think they've ever done before.
Yeah. Like, all they had to do was tell you that, and then you don't see stuff for a long time. You're just scared.
Let's freaking talk parallels. While this was happening, you start to get the feel that something else is happening in the hospital as well. Yep. That is when you have Ellie chasing Nora.
That's when Ellie was chasing Nora. It was when you're fighting the Rat King. They were both down in those hallways.
Yep. Oh. And Nora was thinking. Nora's like, I'm not going to tell you where Abby is because Abby's really here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't
Abby's in the hospital. So she says the aquarium, which is not where she is.
Yep.
And it was all in the potential of Nora trying to protect.
She didn't know anybody was at the aquarium.
No.
That was just a place she thought of because,
Like, she lied in the end. Ellie's like, I made her talk. And the truth is,
that's
she didn't.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that.
She didn't.
She got tortured to death and she lied to the death about where Abby was.
So when I get into a scary game and this game pushed my limits of what I'm comfortable with. If I'm in a group, I'll play scary, whatever. This was scaring the crap out of me, guys. This part was like peak spookiness, I think.
I thought of you when I got to that. I was like, I don't know how Zach's going to do this.
And so I got to that part. It's silent. You're in the hospital just walking around. It's all silent. And I'm like, this is where it started. There's going to be the worst thing ever in this place. I like to yell. This is my strategy. This is the DweeBro official strategy. I scream. I go, ah. I'm literally doing that. And I'm playing and I run forward with my gun out, with a shotgun out. And I'm like going, like just trying to make noises so I don't get jump scared. I did that at the parking garage and nothing was happening. And I like, this can only go for 2 seconds of me doing this. And I was very scared going in the parking lot area, the parking garage.
But, hey, that chase between that overgrown fungus, multi-person thing, dude.
When it broke off, it went Ornstein and Smo and Dark Souls. And now you're fighting two of them.
Yeah, it was a freaking boss battle. It was really cool.
Amazing.
Nuts.
And I want to say, when they pull apart, it was a Dark Souls thing. I went, oh my gosh, this is freaking stalkers. Oh my gosh, the worst thing. I'm scared and I have to fight this thing.
It was nuts. That was an insane.
Yeah, that was a really fun area and one of the highlights of the game.
Yeah, very much so a highlight of the game. You get all that and you take your arm off, which woohoo! And then you find out Levis wants to run away after she heals to go save his mom. And this is the part of the game where I felt like I was fully invested in Abby. Abby goes after Lev.
Oh, real quick, because it ties in with what you're just talking about. There's a part, or maybe this is a little bit later on, sorry, but there's a part when Lev says, what about your people? And Abby, without missing a beat, grabs her, like, you're my people. And
that's later, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Awesome.
I was like, that's great writing. You're connected at that point, and it's great.
That's when they're on the island and stuff is just going nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a turning point when Abby actually starts killing WLF people.
Yeah.
It's like they're in this alone now.
Yes.
They're in this alone.
She makes the choice of like, no, this is it. Now I've chosen.
And that's where I feel like they earn her side of the story. I feel like Ellie's arc is like descent into madness, and then she at the very end you see the light. Abby has an actual arc in this game, and I think
I like Abby. I liked Abby ended up in the more than Ellie. At the end of this, I really did.
I love the island. I love the chaos that
was
war broke out, and this is war it's just war you wouldn't expect to see. One, And like,
Two
did you see
really
the firefight?
well-defined factions with different stuff. The Scars in general, by the way, the whistling and stuff, it was so weird fighting them. They were
Yeah.
so unpredictable, and
I love the whistling aspect.
Yeah.
It's like it was scary. Like
that's an
shoot,
example
where
of
they
this
at?
game. Like the first one, you just fought raiders. They were just looters, you know.
Yeah.
And this one, you get the WLF, which have a very distinct feel. You get the Scars, which have a very distinct
Yeah.
feel. They just really evolved so
So,
much. with the
I think
gameplay.
I want to jump into because this is right around this area. So you get the stuff, you help Yara, whatever, and Lev takes off. Or is that? Do we already get to that?
No, that's where we're at.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah,
When
Lev
Lev
takes
takes
off
off.
or whatever. But this really goes deep into, I think, on top of the Joel stuff, and this, we'll just comment on this. This goes into a whole other discussion, or whatever. But like with Joel stuff, that's what people were like, I hate this other leaks. But the other thing was, they thought Abby was transgender, this transgender man, all this other stuff. And it gets into a hyper weird political, people are weird kind of thing of why they don't like the game. It doesn't come down to gameplay. It comes down to this person was transgender and gets into all these politics and all this other stupid stuff. So this game does get into like Lev is transgender and his tribe does not accept that, his mom does not accept that and stuff. And I think, I'm going to be careful in saying this or whatever, but like, I think in some media, some can kind of go too far into that. And I understand where can be frustrations. There can be,
Here's an example.
It can be done. It can be subtly, and it can be done good. And I felt like this game nailed it. I felt like this game did an amazing job of showing like the struggle of, Lev
was a three-dimensional person. You really felt for them in their moments. It's subtle. It's just who they are. It's just not. It felt natural. Whereas in other games, like I won't say, there are games I played where there are like there's an email system and like it's just every single person that they mention happens to have one of these, more unique things about them. And it's like, okay, well, like, it's interesting. We don't need to get into that whole thing. Yeah. This game does it really appropriately. They treat it with the full dimension of it. They even get into how, and I saw debate about this, they even get into how the Scars were dead naming, which is where you take somebody who is transgender and then you call them by their previous name, even though they're going by a new name. Yeah. And they even get into some of that and just share that, like, they're calling Lev by a different name. And Lev's like, that's just not, I don't know. And I don't know. I just feel like this game, it touched on things in a well-rounded way that I felt like was really appropriate for the character and what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I felt like it did it in an awesome way. It didn't try and virtue signal. It didn't try to do all these terms that people want to throw out. I think that it never took me away from the story. It actually engaged me more. And made Liv a real like cool character. Like I legitimately like felt for him. Like he's got to go back to, his mom and all this other stuff. And it's like, what's going to happen?
It's hard. And then he had to kill the mom. And it was hard.
I think the game did a good job in the sense of portraying that character and the struggles in which, because that society is a very religious based cult. And this child was born into that and was given its role. And it shows what happens when someone doesn't accept that role. Which they shouldn't have to. Freedom is important. But when that person was given that role and they didn't accept it, they went to the hyper extreme is like, what really am I in that sense? And that you ask that question and like watching right now, I don't want to be a bride. I really just like the chaos the island broke out to. The fact that Isaac
island was awesome.
Isaac got killed.
The fires, like the cabins on fire and at the end when you're trying to escape. Yeah, the encounter with Isaac. Mm-hmm. That was intense. That was when Abby had to switch and say, I guess, because there's a moment where Lev almost turns on Abby in that because his sister just died. He just had his mom die. WLF were trying to kill him, and she's part of WLF. Yep. She was protecting him, but she wasn't ready to kill for him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what about your people? She's like, you're my people, and next room you go in, you're killing WLF people. Yeah. And I felt like they handled that. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of when gameplay meets story. And I'm going to say this because I think we're going to be getting close to the end of the game. And I think this is the appropriate place to pose this question. To me, Last of Us 1, gameplay was okay. Story and cutscenes were really good. I didn't feel like I loved the game. The only thing that I felt was really effective was when you switched perspectives and you started playing as Ellie. So to me, that game, for all intents and purposes, could have been a movie, and I probably would have liked it just as much, if not more. Whereas this, they use so many gameplay philosophy things to make you empathize with one side or another when you normally wouldn't. And to make you do all these things that, to me, I felt like this was a game that showed me new layers of what you could do in the medium that I didn't really think about. But Zach, I posed that to you, and you said you almost felt like the opposite. And I don't want to speak for you. Maybe you've wrestled with that some more, where you felt like this would have been better as a visual only thing, whereas the first one, it exceeded what video games could be. So I thought that was an interesting thing. Like, to me, the switching of the factions, the using gameplay mechanics from Joel to make you resonate with Abby. Just like so many things this game did that I was like, this couldn't have been anything but a game, and it was amazing for me.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to pose that while we're kind of getting down to the end of the game. It's the ultimate mirroring of the gameplay and the story of.
I want to hold off on that because let's just wrap up the story stuff. So that happens, they fight or whatever. Let's just straight up just jump into like the ending stuff. Like, let's just go.
Yeah, there's the encounter. There's the encounter at the theater. No, there's the encounter at the theater, which is freaking huge. Yeah. So you fight Ellie.
Yeah, you fight Ellie.
Abby.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was really hard. That was like, who am I fighting for? Who am I like? I don't want to keep doing this. So that is where I see your point, Travis. That wouldn't feel as significant if you hadn't played with these characters for so long equally. And you're like, am I fighting against myself? Like,
and that was the stuff where I was like, people who didn't play it and just watched the stream, I'm like, I don't know how you could have really know how to talk.
Yeah, you don't know how to feel that because you haven't had the weight of the time in it. So I have to bow out on that. That is more significant gameplay wise. So that happens or whatever. I even got to the point like, do I have to fight? Like, is there a choice to where I don't have to do this?
I saw people online say you're tapping and you're like, am I choking Ellie or am I struggling for Ellie to get free? Or am I killing her? Or am I killing Abby or am I trying to get Abby out of the water because it mirrors and it happens again?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like they blur it and you're like, I don't even know who I'm playing for. And the game leans into that in the way they frame it almost.
Yeah. So for that goes back to the story of the gameplay and all that.
Ellie's a tough boss, by the way. Holy crap!
She is. That was
with
hard.
That shotgun out on you and that scene. I mean, we could just say in the theater when it really comes to a head. We already talked a little bit. Lev is the one that defuses it, but I was so conflicted, and that's where I feel like Dina was effective enough. Where I didn't want Abby to slit Dina's throat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I cared. Yeah. You know, if she was a nothing character, I didn't care when she shot Jesse. But when she was getting ready, I was like, dude, no, like this is messed up.
Don't kill Dina.
And so the game ends.
Yeah.
And you have the final confrontation. Abby walks away again. Ellie is laying in a bloody pool mess, and then you jump forward.
We get the farmhouse stuff. And the farmhouse stuff reminded me of like Uncharted 4's like, kind of like epilogue, kind of cool stuff or whatever.
Did you think the game was ending at that point?
Yes. Because
Jacob, did you think the game was ending at that point?
I was ready for it to end.
Yeah. So this is where I was at. I was like, all right, wrap it up. I'm so glad this is over.
Yeah.
And the second they put you, they're like, she's here. Okay. Or the Tommy interaction.
No, but before that, hold on. But before he even shows up, because you're there for a little while, you have PTSD flashbacks.
Yeah.
You have moments where you're killing the boar and you're like, there's things that clearly show Ellie is not healthy.
Yes.
And I feel like they planted that well enough that when Tommy showed up, I knew where this was going. And I've seen a lot of people criticize like, Ellie would just stay. She's happy. I don't know how you could play that and think she's happy.
Yeah, and
she
in my head,
not happy.
In my head, I was like, I'm wondering if they're setting up for a Last of Us 3 because I know this is over. You're not going to make me play another hour, and here we are.
Yeah.
When they put me on that island,
but it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. They set it up like you're going to be hunting, and it's going to be a whole other thing. Because then, so you do the thing, and I felt like that was some of the most effective character work between Ellie and Dina. Ellie was walking out and Dina was like, are you really for real going to walk out and leave me here with this baby? One of the things I loved was when you first show up there with Ellie, they have gates and barbed wire. Nothing can get into this, right? And I'm thinking like, in any other game, like somebody would roll up with a tank and clickers would come running in and the house would be overrun. This is a game where the perfect ending was ruined from inside, not from anything outside. Like that to me, it is. They want you to think that's the epilogue, and that's the point. Like that's where it works. Is and this thing was ruined because the heart was not healed.
Santa Barbara. For me, I had read afterwards from people talking about this because I was like, God, did we need another? Like I already told you guys, I felt like this game was 25% longer than on every section. It's like, God Almighty, am I gonna have to do something else? Like wrap it up. But I did feel, as much as I felt like that way, it was important storytelling wise to get to see this through. Yeah, it had to happen, and they had to do this juxtaposition of like, oh, now they're gonna have, she's gonna go back, and she's gonna have to be.
It just asks a lot from the player. It asks a lot from the player.
It does. It does.
Santa Barbara is also not as long as you think it will be, because when I first got there as Abby, they painted as game's just going to keep going. Like you're there with Lev and you're trying to find the house. You're able to pick stuff up and craft. And I was like,
I was
am I really
done.
about to be Abby and Lev and Santa Barbara for 3 hours and then Ellie for 3 hours?
I was at 0% battery in my willpower.
But then when you find the house and you finally like, I feel good for Abby. She is going to meet up with the Fireflies and they walk out of that house. And she gets hit with the bat and they get knocked down and they get abducted. I was like, oh no, this is not good. This is not good. And then you're Ellie showing up there. And I got the feeling in my stomach. The only thing I can describe it as is in The Irishman. The last 25 minutes of that movie is a couple characters that you love that are on the opposite side of a conflict. And one of them, how this is going to end. He's going to kill this person. Yeah. But the other guy doesn't know. He's oblivious. He doesn't know what's happening. And the whole time as Ellie arriving at Santa Barbara, I was thinking of The Irishman of like, Ellie wants to go kill Abby. I don't want to kill Abby. I want to save Abby. Like, I don't want to kill Abby, but I know Ellie has no love in her heart for Abby. And I just felt my stomach was in knots. It was so effective. It was so effective.
Yeah. So I did like getting to see, over in Santa Barbara, like how's California dealing with this? Like, how's this area? I thought that was cool from like a lore wise, like, oh, this is how this is going down. Like it's similar to The Walking Dead. They're keeping these things on leashes and stuff, like,
and they give you the submachine gun at least to help you with
they try to
plowing through stuff.
Yeah. Faster. They're like, hey, we realized we just extended the game a little bit farther than maybe.
Yeah, that was helpful.
Here's a machine gun. I get that.
So we get, let's just I'm going to zoom straight into it. Let's get to it. She finds Abby, and Abby's basically kind of crucified on this thing. They're all kind of in this.
When you walk up on that, I was like, as far as world building and atmosphere and visuals and thematic meaning, like that to me is, I'll forgive Jesse being a whatever character. And I know pacing hit you guys harder than it hit me. Yeah. That was when I was like, I am playing a classic. This is literally some of the most iconic things I've ever seen in a game. Walking up on Abby crucified on the beach, and now you're gonna let her down just to kill her. Like
that was hard. That was hard. Like seeing her, she looked unrecognizable.
She looked unrecognizable. Kind of, She was shriveled up. Her hair was cut off.
And, it was fricked up. So that Metal Gear Solid 4-esque fight scene happens between them in the water.
Did you think when she first let her down, because she doesn't kill her immediately? She lets her down, and they go up to the boats, and like it's not clear what Ellie's going to do.
I think Ellie
even knows. Yeah.
Ellie is confused because Ellie's like, she's not in a position to fight me, and I want to rightfully fight you. Like I want to fight you when you're strong.
Yeah. So lets her get right up until my camera just.
Oh my gosh, it was like that.
End of an era.
But that was a fricked up scene. So.
And then she puts the knife to Lev's throat and is like, because she's like, Abby's like, I'm not going to fight you. Yeah. Abby's like, I am not going to fight you. And think of this from Abby's perspective. She's never had an actual conversation with Ellie. She met Ellie when she killed Joel. She met Ellie again when Ellie killed all her friends, and she let her go again. And now Ellie's saving her.
Yeah.
And now she's stopping her and putting a knife to Lev.
Yeah.
And Abby just has to be like, this is the craziest bitch I've ever met in my life.
She wants that opportunity. So what she wants, like, she's saving you, but she wants to fight. Like she has to end this and stuff for her sake. But yeah, that goes down, and she ends up letting them go. Like you said, that flashback happens, and
Yeah.
that cut of that
Did
quick
you?
little cut.
How did you guys feel when you were fighting Abby? Did you feel just
sick,
so
sick,
gross?
just sick to my stomach, and that's
I
what they
over
wanted you.
it.
That's what they wanted you to feel. I think was this
Yeah.
is too much. This is as much as I felt like the game was too much on every level. This was too much emotionally, and it was supposed to feel that way for Ellie's sake. Like you're supposed to feel like this hate and all this stuff has gone on for too long, and this like you need to let revenge go, and like for the theme of Lost, let it go, Jack. Like you need to like let things go and whatever, and she can't do that. But she does finally thinking of Joel, and Joel does come back around in this final moment of like, yeah, this is, let things go and whatever. But yeah, that's the whole game. We went through the whole story and stuff.
I do like
and then you go back to the farm at the end, and Dina.
Yes, Dina's gone.
Dina,
sorry,
hey, good for Dina. Good for Dina too. Like she pieced out, and I saw people online like, do you think they'll get back together? And even Neil Druckmann was like, no. Like decisions were made. Like Dina is not, and Dina is a strong enough character that I buy that. Like no, Ellie made her choice, and Dina would make her stick to it. Yeah. And when she goes to play the guitar, and now she doesn't even have the fingers to play Future Days. Because they're trying to get you to play those chords.
I thought that was great. Yeah, I didn't notice that till I was goofy. If we're talking about us, like you didn't notice that. I didn't notice that for some reason. I just thought the game was fricked up. Like I was like, why is it sounding messed up? I'm pressing the pad right, am I?
Yeah. No.
But yeah, the fingers.
You bit these two fingers off, which like you need them to play pretty much anything.
Yeah.
It was enticing. It was definitely weird.
Well, then you get the last true flashback of them at the dance then.
Yeah. Yep.
And then after the dance.
Yeah.
We talked about that, but to me, that was the perfect thing to end the game on. Because I was wondering, even when you're fighting Abby, I was like, how are they going to tie this together? Because we're doing these Joel flashbacks, and they showed that, to me, that was when it all came together. Was at that point, you still did not know like what was Ellie's last interaction with Joel.
Sure.
And so to show that after she let Abby go, that they were starting to try to talk again.
Yep.
Yeah.
That to me was like, man, that's when it came together. But
I say we just fade into overall score stuff.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
I do have one more comment, which I don't know if you guys noticed this. You know how at the beginning of the game there's on the menu, what's there?
The boat
with the fog. That's where the final fight happened. Did you guys go to the menu after you completed the game?
Yeah, wasn't it Santa Barbara?
It was Santa Barbara.
So it's confusing. That is Catalina Beach, which is where the Fireflies are. That dome is at Catalina. It just looks a lot like the dome that they had at Santa Barbara, but that is where they said the Fireflies were, and the implication is that Abby and Lev made it to where the Fireflies. That's what Neil Druckmann said, and he's like, it's unfortunate. It looks in real life a lot like the place where those like slave people were, but he's like, it's a different place. There's flags. It is a different building. So.
Gotcha.
Well, I guess
it's implying that they made it.
Yeah. Okay.
I really like the symbolism of clarity.
It's a sunrise. It's a sunrise.
That is cool.
Also, just regarding menu stuff, I don't know if you guys have booted the game up since you beat it, but they give you the ability to go back into the main menu and select any chapter, also any individual encounter. You can launch any encounter at any difficulty. You can choose to use the stuff you had when you were there actually or other stuff. And you can also do that to go in 100% the game, so you don't have to play all the way through. You can just pick encounters.
Yeah.
And as you play the game and you collect stuff, you get a currency, and there's a place in the game where you can buy all of the models, in-game models of the characters.
I started doing that.
And also, you can buy all the concept art, which I thought maybe goes back to your thing about concept art, was you can go through these packs. I just thought that was the coolest thing. In single-player games, it's always tough. What do you do after you beat it? I thought
this and Final Fantasy VII Remake are doing great. This is the new golden era of replayability.
New game plus.
I thought both of them did great. Yeah, all that to be said, let's get into our overall score.
And I did want an answer on that game, this being a game versus something.
Yes, so let's get into that to go with the score. I watched Rocco from Mega 64. They do their own podcast, game stuff. his review or his thoughts on this game, and it was a lot shorter than our 3 hours. I think we're on like 3 hours or something right now.
Yeah.
But in his thoughts, I hadn't thought about this, and I was struggling. Like, Travis, you're like, haven't you beat this yet or whatever? And I'm trying to enjoy the sunshine. It's been warm here in Ohio, whatever. But like, it was hard to get through this. It was like at parts like not fun. I'm slogging through it, and it was hard to find the incentive to play sometimes. And one thing that he said was he was like, he ended up enjoying the game or actually having fun with it or whatever. But he said it caused him to question, what is should a video game be fun? Because you're experiencing all these things, and I liked all the story development stuff and stuff you talked about, but like, is pulling down somebody from a crucifixon thing and then beating them to death, is that fun? Or beating this character? And he was challenged in that way. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's how I feel. Because you were talking about how Last of Us 1 could be a movie, and there was parts of this that we're talking about empathy. And the game, the second half is showing you, guess what? It's time to empathize. You're going to go through this camp. You're going to see the scars perspective. We're going to empathize. And I got that sooner than what the game maybe thought that I had. And that was a struggle for me. That is where I'm telling you it could have been an HBO 10 episode season, because I'm sitting there and I'm playing. I'm like, I'm slogging through another fight to get to this thing I get it. Like, the game's like, did you know you're about to empathize? Yes, I get it. I get it.
Respond? Because I think you're saying two things.
I'm describing that this game is saying, guess what? You're going to empathize. I get it. I get it already. But you're making me fight through 50 more encounters that I'm ready to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I wish this could have been a show at certain parts of this game, because... And I get the struggle. What you guys made me notice what you guys made me notice when we're talking is, there are definitely moments that are, gameplay melted with the story that were more significant because you had the controller in your hand. That wouldn't have bled into an HBO. I get that. But at the same time, some of the, we are about to make you empathize. We're about to make you do this. And it's like, I got that faster than what the game maybe thought. Like,
so let me clarify. Let me clarify, because I hear what you're saying, but you're saying two different things. You're saying the same thing you've been saying, which was pacing wise, it didn't work for you.
Yes.
And the game took longer to get to where you felt like you already were.
Yes.
So, but my thing is, neither of those two things means it couldn't be a game still. It could be paced tighter and shorter and more focused. So
what I mean by
the fun thing, I guess you're talking about two things. You're talking about shorter and more focused, and you're also talking about changing the medium. And to me, like, I feel like this would be so forgettable. Something like this has been done in movies 1,000 times. Like, I just like, and it's fine, but like, to me, I don't know any other games that are doing stuff like this. So to me, like, I feel like it would be such a loss if this was a sequel that was made as like a direct to Netflix thing by Naughty Dog in partnership with Sony Pictures.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a game, I wouldn't want to live in that reality. Like,
but maybe the time that we would have spent doing these kind of slogged, I felt like the game was too long. I felt like at the end of the day,
I think we disconnect, because I had fun. I had so much fun.
Was absolutely way too long, I felt like. And I felt like perhaps if it was an HBO show or something, those characters that we all agreed that were forgettable, perhaps they could have spent more time instead of slogging through the same freaking encounter 8,000 times. We could have spent more on Dina, and I would have liked Dina in the HBO show.
But Zach, what I'm asking you, and maybe this is you just prefer that medium to video games. Like, maybe that's where we're at here. Like, maybe you just like movies and shows better than games.
But I don't think that's
shorter. No, hold on. If it was shorter and still a game, it would meet what you're saying. It would be shorter and more focused. You're saying that the game wasn't fun.
I'm saying there were certain aspects where I'm actively not having fun.
Okay.
The game was bleak at times, and that doesn't mean that you can't. I think that's what Rocco was saying too, was like, I'm able to watch shows like Chernobyl, and that's bleak as hell throughout the beginning to end of that. That's terrible.
But you liked The Last of Us 1, which was bleak.
Yes.
You liked, and it was more focused.
But yeah, it was more focused. So I don't know.
No, I'm saying if you took it, you're saying two things. You're saying it needed to be shorter and it maybe needed to be a different medium. What I'm saying is I'm just challenging you. I get what Rocco said. That's great. Hold on, though. if it was shorter and still a game, would it still meet what you're saying? Why does it need to change media?
I think I would have still, if it was shorter and more focused,
and still a game,
a la Last of Us 1, perhaps I would have had a more enjoyable experience. Yes. That could have been perhaps that could have been the answer.
But how would making this a show or a movie make the story better, other than making it shorter? That's the only thing you're telling. That's the only thing you're saying. If it was a show, it would have been shorter.
Yes.
What other thing? Because you can make a game shorter. I'm asking you, because you're saying it maybe should have been a game. I'm saying if it was gonna become a movie or a show, what are you getting that you're not getting here, or what are you avoiding?
I think what the show could have done, and perhaps like you said, like maybe the answer, maybe I'm portraying two answers to my problem of what I would have liked more.
You're giving two answers and saying it should have been both, and I'm just like,
maybe I would have liked it if they would have shaved off some of the stuff, but at the same time, the game was too long. They could have done an HBO series that delved deeper into these characters. Yeah, we would have lost some of this gameplay stuff, but maybe I would have enjoyed this a little bit more.
It could have been good.
But two, yeah, maybe we could have shaved off all this gameplay, but we still would have been left with, if it's shorter, would they have fixed those character things too? I don't know, because we're still having to play gameplay. This is an internal conflict. I'm not saying I have the answer.
No, I'm not saying you need the answer. That's the whole point of discussion. I'm not challenging you because I think you're wrong. I'm just challenging you because one of my least favorite things in the world is to say something in one medium should have, like, this book shouldn't be a movie, or this movie should have been a game, or this game should have been a TV show. Like, to me, if that's a fine position, what are you going to achieve that you can't in this medium? And everything you're describing, being shorter, having better, tighter characters, you're refining the scope. Those are things you can do in a game. There's nothing you're describing that a game can't do. And so when you said that, one of the things you mentioned to me, and you kind of said, Rocco said it, is this made you question what a game can be in terms of, did this game exceed, like, was their scope bigger than what a game can be? I just don't see that.
Well,
like,
what he was saying
the framework of a game can't
what he was
provide.
saying was he could sit down and just watch Chernobyl and experience that. But experiencing a video game is different. You're actively, like, punching someone. You're actively doing this, and it's like, I'm kind of miserable right now, like, with my free time, and I'm trying to play this video game. And that's what he was challenged with. And that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, actively.
If you don't enjoy it while you take the time to choose to do it, it doesn't make it fun.
It's an active hobby. It's not a passive hobby. But even when you're watching Chernobyl, though, like, even though you're not playing Chernobyl, you're more actively participating in it than you would watching Seinfeld in the background. Like,
you're more.
I don't know. When I watch Breaking Bad,
you're paying attention.
But I felt the same way watching Breaking Bad. It's 56 episodes of a little bit of dark humor and, like, a lot of really rough stuff.
Yeah.
And I had to actively watch that show.
Sure.
I get what you're saying. I guess maybe for me, the gameplay was so fun and interesting that it carried it for me in a way it didn't for you.
I don't know. I think we can all wrap it up in the end like this. We'll use our patent DweeBros scale.
Well, hold on.
No,
I'm going to say something, Zach. I don't think I'm ready to put a number to it just yet. Like,
no, I mean, I don't think we're putting a number.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It makes sense,
about,
yeah.
If we're going to say something should be in a different medium, I want to know specifically, what does the other medium offer? Like, if you were to say this should have been a book, I would say, okay, because you could do a lot of different things with perspective. You don't have to build, gameplay mechanics for 9 different characters, right?
I think
books lean themselves more to, lots of different perspectives, and you don't have to have a budget at all. You can write anything to the paper. To me, this game struggled not with budget.
I think this game took two. I just thought of what I was having a problem with when I was playing, when I was thinking about the HBO show stuff or whatever. The game takes too long to get to certain conclusions, so that could I have consumed this faster through a TV show than having to fight all these clickers 18,000 times when it should have been maybe 10,000 times? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Could we have bypassed that and shortcutted it to this?
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like. The game was trying to get you to empathize, and I felt like I empathized sooner than what the game was like. But look at this or whatever. And I'm like, I get it, game. Like, don't make me play 10 more hours. I do. Okay.
No, that answers my question. I hear you. I got you.
So let's get to our final scores. And I want to let you guys go first because I want to tell about my experience with the reviewing this game. Travis, would you do us the honors of kind of giving your final little paragraph and your score, like your final little overview and whatever?
Yeah, so I would say for me, and I had to think about this a little bit, like a game that I would give like a classic or a rad to, like to me, to be a classic, it has to really challenge me, really bring me into that moment of time that I played it. I'll think back on it, I'll remember it. Gameplay wise, it has to be awesome. It has to be great systems, great feel, and it has to be thematically something that resonates, even if it's a very gameplay focused game. Like it has to be something with lasting effect. And say what you will about maybe there were a couple characters that were duds, or there were choices, or there were some structural issues. I've been talking about this damn game for 3 hours. So to me, that is the definition of what a classic is. It is something you will debate about with your friends for hours, and the time will fly by. So to me, this game is a classic. I think that it excels drastically at things that the first game did. And I will even say, I think the first game was a little tighter. I could have used a little bit more tightness to this game. I think the first game, the side characters that weren't the best, they got them out when they needed out. This game, it kept bringing them back. I'll admit that completely. And I, just like anybody else, had a couple moments in this game where I kind of set the controller down and said, what are they expecting from me right now? I'm going to do the next 3 days to somebody else. I'm going to go to Santa Barbara now. But every time that happened, I opened myself up and said, what are they trying to do? And I loved where it brought me in the end. And to me, for me personally, we've talked about this, first game, second game, they made so good on the characters of the first game and who they were and how it ended would have led them. Like, to me, it's like sequel gold, just in terms of they did not betray in any way, and they fleshed out in every way, and they gave both Joel and Ellie a meaningful end to that conflict. So I give it a classic, 5 out of 5. Not perfect, but I loved it.
Cool. Jacob?
When we look at this game, we all agree that it's probably one of the most divisive games that has came out.
Maybe ever.
If not ever. And that makes it really difficult to review, because from a critic standpoint, you review it for the sake of what it is, as art, as storytelling, as a sense of like enjoyment. From a individual consumer level, you review it in a sense of confidence. Am I confident that this series was done right in the sense of what it entertains me? Coming fresh off of Last of Us and coming into this game with an open mind, I was not being jaded in any, I don't think I was jaded in any sense of way. Was I disappointed? Yes. Was I jaded? No. I am going to create a in-between you can play it and rad, saying you should play it.
You can play it, and you
should play it.
You should play
It's not perfect, but you
should play it.
Yes, and here's why I say that. For the people who are out there...
Is that italicized, the should?
For the people who are out there who are saying, skip this game, they did the whole story wrong, shame on you. You read something, you let it drive you. And I can say I was part of that crowd a little bit. So for that, do not do that.
The Jacob arc. You had an arc too with this game.
You're missing out on so much potential things to talk about, whether you love it or hate it. There's so much here.
But not
now his arc, his ending is he made the "you should play it" scale on our thing.
Jacob started out as Abby with this game. He was killing it with a golf club, and now he's found new purpose.
Completely different. The reason why I can't, I'll divide it. Why I cannot give it its rad, and why I would not say you could play it. The reason it's not a rad is I'm 100% with you, Zach. The game gets sluggish. The story sometimes gets a little convoluted. The character development can be a lot more, especially when you do play Last of Us and you do love what they did there with just the beautiful relationship and the beautiful bond that you get to experience between two individuals. You now get to experience it among 15 individuals. Is it perfect? No. Is it completely messy? No, it's not. That's where people get messed up. What keeps it from being you could play it is 100% Abby. 100%. It is the very person that you think you would despise actually becomes the very person that you want to know more about in the end. And that right there tells me it's world class in the sense of storytelling that you don't really want to be told. I can see why Zach said you can make it into a movie, because the fact of the matter is you could make this into a movie and I don't have to do all the encounters, and I would be perfectly fine watching this media and consuming it in that sense. What I just think really ruined the game was, this story, that story, filler in between the days, because you've got to make the game, a certain amount of time long. It just kind of, the pacing really, really bored me and really, really bothered me. And then the awkward interactions or the forced interactions between characters that I just, in the end of the day, could give a crap less if they died. Yeah. So you should play it. Sticking my guns to it.
You should play it. I love that.
I like that.
That is great. Okay, I want to say that I legitimately had a arc of my own, because I came into this review with one score and I'm leaving it with a different one. I think you guys successfully both, what's the word for it? Made me see some things I didn't see, or appreciate some things I didn't see before. Coming from Last of Us 1, I loved the Titan-It thing, like I mentioned previously, the Titan-It Joel and Ellie arc. This game was all over the place. I didn't like the side characters. And something that I struggled the most in coming up with the score was I had to look at this game, and I'm writing all of my thoughts down. I was like, I didn't like 50% of the game. One half of this video game I didn't like, and if the title wasn't Last of Us, what would I give a game that 50% is not enjoyable? You know what I mean? Overall enjoyable. God, like, what am I gonna? But there's a lot of crazy stuff, and I respect where they're at. And this game reminds me of a movie we talked about on our podcast, Midsommar. To a degree, to a certain degree, not one-to-one, but
I understand.
What I talked about on the podcast with the movie Midsommar, it's excellently made. It's so immaculate. The way that the cinematography and the mood and everything, it's captured perfectly. But there is violent scenes in there that are so over the top and gross, and there's horror elements that I came away hating it. Like, I came away I don't want to watch this movie, but I respected it for what it was. I feel very similar with this game. There's incredible set pieces. There's flashbacks that I really did love with Joel and Ellie and the spaceship. We didn't talk about it, but the spaceship, those moments harkened back to Last of Us 1. Like, it felt like continuation of that. And I'm also reminded when I was talking with you guys about Skyward Sword, which I hate Skyward Sword so much as a game, but I got they made a book about all the Zelda games, and I read about the lore of Skyward Sword, and I went, what the frick? Skyward Sword rules. But if you gave me a Wii remote and told me to play Skyward Sword again, I would hate you. I would hate my life if I had to play it. But and I kind of felt like when you guys were talking about this stuff, I was like, I'm jazzed on this. Like, the way things I didn't see that you guys mentioned that connected, and this, and the hospital, and they were at the same time and crossed paths, and all this cool stuff was going on. Like, that is cool. Like, they did manage to do some cool stuff. But I'm back to, was it fun as a game? Was it fun as like an experience? And that 50% I didn't like. So I started this review with a you can play it, but I struggled greatly because a you can play it, in my mind, a 3 out of 5 is a game that you could take or leave it. Like Assassin's Creed 18, if you've played 1 through 10, maybe you've played Assassin's Creed 18.
There's something about
already
calling it you can play it that just it makes it sound like you've seen it before.
Yes.
So it doesn't fit this.
Yes, and it actively, that is a good, I think that does sum
kind
up.
of broke our scale.
Yeah, it broke our scale. This game broke our scale. So I thank you to Jacob that has mentioned, I think Travis before we started mentioned, like, what if something's in between? I could not give this game a rad because half of it I didn't enjoy. The half of it I think is take it or leave it. The characters are not, never developed like Dina and all this other stuff. What's going on with this game? It's messy. It's not, doesn't click in perfectly like Last of Us 1. So I can't give it a rad. I'm far from classic because of that, but I do see, Travis, your point of why you would call it a classic. That is fair, but I give this game the you should play it. The 3.5. It broke our freaking scale. That's how divisive the game was. It just shook the freaking foundation of everything.
Yeah.
God almighty, this game.
And it makes it's.
So I give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
But I'm glad this game exists. I love it like I do Midsummer, and the way that it's made is excellent. It's incredible, and I respect Naughty Dog more. I'll still continue to buy their games day one.
I'm able to walk away saying I don't feel like I would, if I could go back and do it again, I would do it.
Yeah. You mean you would play it again?
Yeah, that was the joke on Joel.
You're a Joel.
Oh, okay.
I had to do it. Joel would give killing an entire hospital full of people you should do it. I would do it again. I didn't like it, but I would do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know how it left me, but I would do it again.
One last question. That is something that went in my review too, is I would go back and play Last of Us 1, and I don't feel the drive to play this one again. But maybe that'll change it.
It'll be interesting over time. It'll be interesting over time.
Maybe it'll
Maybe I'll
age
do it all again
differently
when they do part 3.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the elephant in the room is
I really don't need a Last of Us 3. I did need a Last of Us 2. I really don't need a Last of Us 3.
Here's what I'll say. I'm not really interested. If Neil Druckmann has a vision, I will be there and play it. If it's not him, or if there's not a vision, I don't need it.
Here's what I'll say.
I feel like they've wrapped up Ellie and Joel's story. I don't know.
Yes.
And Last of Us is that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
2.5 with Abby and Lev with the Fireflies, I might buy the DLC.
If it's DLC.
If it's DLC or like a Uncharted Lost Legacy.
But I'm not playing another 40 freaking hours of...
No. Was that your final time?
It was like 35, 30.
Really?
Something, yeah.
What was yours, Jacob?
Like 26.
I was 24.
Oh, you flew. Okay, I felt bad.
I explored everything. I don't know.
Can I ask a question? This doesn't.
I was shocked as you went through how much longer it was taking.
How much?
I was really exploring every nook and cranny. I was enjoying.
How much time did it take you, Zach? I mean, not time. What difficulty did you play it on?
Normal.
Okay, yeah. I was really sure if we were normal boys or if anyone would decide to try to take it up a level.
Of all the reviews we've ever done, this is my favorite one we've done.
Yeah.
Because this is just
madness.
This game.
But I have had my own arc. I've learned some stuff.
I've learned some stuff too. I have a better feel for why you were saying the movie thing. Because in a movie, you can have an action section, but you don't have to have 40 clicker encounters to have that movie.
Yes.
I get what you're saying.
And I got what you like. I got why you feel this way because you really connected with certain elements and like those elements touch with me too. Like I'm seeing that now. Like, oh yeah, that is cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for joining us on this 3-hour, but this is a deep dive, baby. Like, this is our thoughts, and here we are.
We'll do Ghost of Tsushima next week. That's the other thing too.
That'll be 20 minutes long.
I'm all about let's have something to talk about. Like, I'm sure Ghost of Tsushima is great. I feel like we could do a review on that. It would take us 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah, we could get those out faster.
Yeah.
But the Last of Us 2 review
this one was a little bit different.
Yeah.
It always will be.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Special thanks to Microsoft who sponsored us.
Abby did nothing wrong. Game of the generation.
Come here, Alice. Everybody say bye to Alice.
There we
Bye,
go.
Alice.
All right.
Remember the dog?
Oh yeah, the dog.
Yeah, you killed it.
Oh yeah,
gosh.
wreck. Well, thank you for joining us. If you like this, subscribe, click like, leave a comment and say who's right, who's wrong, and if we should play it.
Yeah.
Or if we could play it.
Big difference.
Big difference. See you guys later.